separate and together as we bring this meeting forth, and that all those who are affected in our community, we simply ask you to touch them with a healing hand. This is just my humble prayer in the precious name of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Moore, I'm gonna have you to do the agenda for me. Next on the list is.
Sure, so let me actually, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Let me go ahead and pull it up. I'm getting some playback.
Did you want me to screen share, Sado?
Sure.
Yes. Yes.
So actually, I just turned it off because I've got the YouTube in my other ear. So sorry about that. If we want to actually move on to the adoption of the agenda for this meeting, you can see it posted on our website. So if you go to anc5d.org, for those of you following along at home, we have an agenda posted there on the website under meetings, and you can see that for the April 14th meeting. If I could get a second on approving tonight's agenda.
Can we see it on the screen? Can the community see it?
Yes, I'm gonna screen share.
Yes.
Can you see that?
There we go. Yes, we can. Excellent.
All right.
So this is the agenda. Is any changes, commissioners? Any additions?
Not for me.
Okay.
We had one zoning item to be added from 5D06 because 5D06 doesn't have a commissioner at the current time. They had reached out to him previously and wanted to follow up today because they didn't see themselves listed on the agenda.
Okay.
And
is
so
that a voting? Is that going to be a voting action?
It's a presentation.
Presentation. Okay. All right. Under presentation, we'll add the presentation for 5D06.
Mm-hmm.
Are they online? Do you know if they're online?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent.
And then the only other item which was actually on there already was the office, the People's Council, the Office of the People's Council.
Excellent.
And they've already been added.
All righty. No other adjustments or additions?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of adopting adopting the agenda with the changes, signify by saying aye.
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 Commissioner Blacknell, we have to hear you. What? Signify by raising your hand. Okay.
Now we can hear you.
Right. That passes 4-0. Okay. Next, we have the chairman's report. As you know, as we all are going through this crisis, really and just even our commission is going through a crisis before this happened, with the many missing. You know, we have 2 vacant positions, well, 1 vacant and 1 commissioner that is absent due to a family situation. We simply ask that you continue to work with us. Want you to stay safe. Right now, as much as we have a lot on the agenda, I don't have that much to add to the chairman's report just because we're just, you know, everybody's operating, as I say, at a closed level, being at home. So I just say just to be safe, and we'll move on to, we have an election for the Treasury. And because our treasurer was also 5D06 Commissioner Burkett, we can't operate or spend money without a treasurer. So we have, I'm gonna open the floor for nominations for the treasurer.
Sure. I'd like to nominate Commissioner Linehan.
I second it.
I heard you that time, Commissioner Blacknell. Okay, as Commissioner Linehan is our secretary, he also can be our treasurer. So all those in favor for Commissioner Linehan, please signify by raising your hand. Commissioner Linhan, will you be voting? Thank you.
Please
Since
vote
there
for
were-
yourself.
Yeah, since there were no other nominees, we're going to move to have Commissioner Linhan be our treasurer. That passes 4-0. So fortunately, Commissioner Linhan is already on the account. The only drawback is that we're going to have to curtail he's our IT person. So he will have to turn those duties over, I guess, to myself to make the orders after he tells me what to order and purchase. But we pretty much are on board with everything we need right now. Treasurer's report. We have submitted the first. Commissioner Burkett, the former treasurer, did submit the treasurer's report. We did have some expenditures that we're able to get through before he resigned, but no longer we can make any payments right now. The second quarter report, they haven't contacted me or commission. There's going to contact me with the report, Commissioner Linhan. So we might submit the second quarter. Second quarter ended March 31st. We got a little leeway on that because they understand we don't have a treasurer and they changed the format. So that will be, I was supposed to get an email with the treasurer's report, the format yesterday, but I didn't receive it from the office of the ANC, but I'm sure I'm going to get it today or tomorrow. Any questions about that? I'm sorry. So next on the agenda, Commissioner Moore is requesting reimbursement for
adoption of the minutes.
Okay, yeah, we did skip right. Yeah, the adoption of minutes. Commissioner Linhan, are there any changes to the minutes, commissioners? Everybody has reviewed the minutes and no changes are necessary? Like a motion that the minutes from the March ANC meeting be adopted as reported and submitted by Commissioner Linhan to all the commissioners. Is there a second?
I second.
And that was seconded by Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, that passes 4-0. Now, Commissioner Moore, request for reimbursement for the December reception for food and some non-perishable items. Oh, you did COVID-9. Well, we take them one at a time. Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
You have submitted those receipts?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And also for we'll take it one at a time. All those in favor of for the reception that we had in December, end of the year reception, all those in favor for reimbursing Commissioner Moore for the fabulous spread that she laid out in December. Please signify by saying aye. Oh, I need a second. I need a second.
I second.
It's seconded by Commissioner Linhan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, that passes 4-0. She also purchased water, which we've been using throughout we were using it when we had our meetings. So we still have water. And the non-perishable items that we use for the party and future events. That purchase was $96.06. Receipts have been submitted by Commissioner Moore. I'd like to make a motion that we reimburse her for the expenditures for the water and the non-perishable items. Is there a second?
I second.
It's seconded by Commissioner Linhan again. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 That passes 4-0. Commissioner Moore has went beyond the call of duty by placing yard signs on COVID-19. Commissioner Moore, you want to explain that?
Sure. So we actually have a new text relay service in ANC 5D, and you'll see these on TV sometimes where it says text and it'll give you a short word to text to a telephone number so that you can subscribe to receiving text messages. So ANC 5D did a little research And we set this up for our area because we do have some constituents who are not online. But for the most part, those same constituents do have the ability to at least receive text messages. So you'll see a lot of yard signs out in the area that say text ANC 5D to 31996. And that's a great way for people who do not have internet access to still be able to get information at this time. We didn't want to do a lot of door knocking, obviously, with social distancing going on. So this is our alternative to some of that shoe leather work that we typically do to get the word out.
Now, Commissioner Moore, how many of these signs do you have?
There are 5 of them up in the area right now. My suggestion is, now that we have this service set up and we have a short code and a number, that any commissioner could go ahead and do signs in their area as well, wherever you see fit, and use that same telephone number and ANC 5D as the short code, so that people can send a text message to subscribe.
And Sadell, have you posted this on our website as well?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
And so when you asked, well, I was asking where the signs, so you have them in all 4 areas of your ANC?
So they're in 5 different locations throughout my ANC. So one is at the corner of 18th and H Street. There's another at the corner of 21st and H. There's one at the parking lot for the Food 7. So people coming up 19th Street can see it. And then there's also one on I Street as well.
Okay.
So just try to spread them out throughout the area so that, common routes that people use when they're walking, you can see them.
Now, do you get a report on how many texts go out? Is that
We get a report on how many people actually subscribe. So in the first day alone, we had 3 people subscribe. And so it's been pretty consistent with about 3 people a day subscribing for the past week or so.
okay? And it's only been up for a week then.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, Commissioner, you would like to be reimbursed for those expenses for the signs?
Yes, just for the sign. We haven't been charged for any of the service so far of sending out the text messages. So just being reimbursed for the sign itself.
So will there be a charge for the service?
Only if you go over a certain amount of subscribers. So we just haven't gotten to that point yet. It's a lot like MailChimp, where there's a free tier for the first 50 subscribers. And then after that, you would pay. So we haven't quite reached that yet in the past week.
Okay, all right. Any other questions, commissioners?
Nope.
Okay. Is there a motion for reimbursement?
I will second the
Yes.
motion for reimbursement.
You want to make the motion? Who's making the motion?
Oh, well, I can make the motion. I move
Okay.
that, that I be reimbursed for the expenses of just the sign itself. The signs themselves that appear throughout the neighborhood, giving people alternative ways to get information about the pandemic, as well as our upcoming meetings and activities.
Commissioner Linehan, you second that?
I do second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That passes 4-0. I see the Metropolitan Police Department is on the line, so as always, even in our meeting, we always let them, when they show up, we let them give the report to get back to work. So go ahead, sir. Can you state your name?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sergeant Andrew Krevling with the Metropolitan Police Department. First off, I want to thank you all for letting me join. This is the first time I've done a community meeting live on Zoom and from a moving police car. I am not driving. I do want to point that out. I'm not driving. My partner is driving. So I'm not distracted. But thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. I think is this your first one that you guys have done on Zoom?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me be a part of it. I'm really proud and happy to be here. I just wanted to go over a couple of things. We have had a small increase in crime overall in the district, about 9%. And that goes for everything from minor property crimes to violent crimes. We have seen a decrease in our burglaries district-wide from 9 in the last week to an average of 3. And on top of that, we have had our assault with dangerous weapons have been consistent. However, we are closing them out at a higher rate than we normally have. We would love to prevent and stop crime wherever we can. However, when we can't do that, making an arrest is the next best thing, and getting justice for the victims. I do want to go over a few things as far as policing has changed in the last month or so. We have had an increase in responses with what we call our telephone reporting unit. So what's happening is for low-level misdemeanor crimes where the suspect is not on scene, or property crimes, for example, if your car gets broken into, we are now having police officers call you on the telephone. We have an entire unit dedicated to those types of calls. And what they're doing is they are calling the victim and getting all their information that way. What that's allowing is it's keeping street officers out on patrol, and it's allowing us to respond to more calls quicker. And it also allows us to limit contact with the public in these smaller calls. The only issue that we're seeing so far is we are being backed up. So it's sometimes taking up to 24 hours for a police officer to call you back. You can get in contact with our telephone reporting unit simply by calling 911. They will they'll put you in the right direction to get in contact with that unit. The other thing that we are really enjoying and really happy that the community is helping out is with the social distancing. We are seeing a lot of people who are continually doing what they're supposed to be doing, and in times when they're not, they're calling 911 and we're responding out. We are asking people to continue to adhere to the mayor's social distance order, as well as to cut out all non-essential travel. We are also asking for people to, although they're physically distancing from one another, to keep in touch with their elderly neighbors and anybody that might need any sort of contact. And then the last thing I want to remind everybody is to go ahead and keep washing your hands. If there's any questions, I'd be more than willing to take them.
Your mic's off, Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Moore.
So I'm back. I hope you can hear me. Hi. Just one quick note for folks. I just want to point out that we're having people raise your hands to ask questions. I know that sounds like something that couldn't happen, but if you scroll down to the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see that you have a toolbar at the bottom. And one of the options that it gives you is raise hand. So if you just click that button, we'll get a little notice on the side of our screens to let us know that you're raising your hand to ask a question. So if anyone has a question for MPD right now, would be a good time to go ahead and press that raise hand button. You can also open a chat window at the bottom of your screen and type a question so that we can see messages from you that way as well. So we'll just give folks a moment here. All right, it looks like we have a question. So I'm gonna turn on your microphone, Ms. Barnes. Hello, do you have a question? You can go ahead and speak now if you have a question. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and disable you and see if we've got a question from someone else. Okay. Oh, so here's a question from Darcy Scott typed in the chat. Will we be asked to wear masks community-wide anytime soon?
Are they?
Is that the question for the police or?
Yes, it is.
I'm being informed by my colleague that an order or recommendation from the mayor's office has gone out to, at the very least, be wearing them when you're out shopping and in stores. I know some of our surrounding communities had made that a mandated order. For example, Anne Arundel County out in Maryland has made that a mandated order. I don't know of any specific things that the mayor has put out. But personally, as a police officer, I myself, I have mine right here that I'm wearing when I'm interacting with the public and when I do go out. So from a personal recommendation, I can ask you to do so. I don't know of any any orders from the mayor or on the public health behalf for that to happen.
Okay, great, thank you. We have another question here from Meredith Barnes. I'm
Yes.
gonna have her come back on. We'll try again here. All right, Meredith, we can hear you now if you're talking.
You can reach, she had the question about the shootings, more shootings in Carver Terrace.
Okay,
The
yes.
sounds of gunshots.
Okay, so I see it's written out here too. So it says, I'm wondering about the increased frequency of gunshots in Carver Langston. And that's a good question.
It is a great question, and I'm glad you brought it up. It's something I missed, and I apologize. We're aware of it as well. And what we have done is we have narrowed down the times when that is happening most frequently, which is in our evening and early midnight tours. And we are assigning a two-man car to that area specifically. These are, I know, I can speak personally from the evening shift. These are two officers that are good at proactive policing, and they know the area well. And it's our goal for them to make contacts and stops with people in that area that have a high risk of carrying a gun, and to do proactive policing in that area, so we can cut down not only just on the sounds of gunshots, but so we can also get guns off the streets when we do find them.
Okay,
Thank
you.
you for asking that.
And Sergeant, I just want to ask, is there a shot spotter in Carver Langston?
Absolutely. Shot Spotter does cover the Carver Langston area. Yes.
Okay.
That's one of the many ways that we get our intel from where the sounds of gunshots are happening. We're also getting a lot of great intelligence from the people that are calling 911.
All right. Go ahead, Commissioner Moore.
And then we had a follow-up question that's related here as well from several neighbors. And do we know who the perpetrators are? Have we been making any good arrests on some of the recent shootings?
I apologize. I don't have any information on recent arrest. I'm sorry. I wasn't able to look that up before I got notification of the meeting, and that's on me, and I'm very sorry. As far as that, though, the officers that are not just the two-man cars that are in that area, but our crime suppression teams and our district intelligence officers are saturating that area right now, so we can identify individuals who are committing the shootings.
Okay, and just a note, we'll follow up as commissioners on that question because we know it's a really important topic. The MPD has been gracious to accommodate this new meeting format, and so we really appreciate them being so flexible. But we do know that that's an important question, and we'll definitely follow up in writing and send out emails and text blasts on those important topics. Then from Janae Queen, we have same question, are gunshots and open drug markets in and around Corcoran, Gallaudet, Kendall Street Northeast? What are we doing?
Right now, I am aware that's part of my area. It's also another area's responsibility for another sergeant, and we're working on a solution for that right now that includes not only just getting more officers in the area, but also reaching out to our human trafficking unit, who does a lot of work in that area at night. I don't know what their limitations are right now because of the pandemic that's going on, but we are aware of that problem, and we are working on a solution right now.
Okay.
I will say we've gotten several really good 911 calls that have led to some really good intelligence. No arrests that I could speak on right now, but have brought us a lot of intelligence into what is going on and where it's happening. Those 911 calls are crucial. I've spoken about this several times. We operate on a no call too small basis, and absent anything that would go to our telephone reporting unit, we are still sending police officers out to these cars to check on these disorderlies and this drug dealing.
Okay, thank you.
And I also did want to say this is a common complaint I receive. So anything that you can do. I know this is a difficult time, but yes, this has been a common issue for many years.
Yes, sir. We are still working on it. We're adjusting day by day, hour by hour at this point, but it is something that we have not forgotten about and not lost sight of during this pandemic.
Thank you.
So we've got another question here from Michelle Bush, which has been a really common question. Has there been an increase in domestic violence calls in our ANC and throughout the whole city?
That's a great question. I can't speak to it. Unfortunately, I can't speak to that for the whole city. I can't speak to it from numbers. Anecdotally, I can tell you, I haven't seen any sort of increase outside of our normal numbers. But again, that's just from my own personal experience. I don't have the numbers on that in front of me. One would assume that you might have an increase in domestics just because of the shelter-in-place order. However, one would also hope that those people are able to shelter in place with people that they feel safe with. That being said, I do know that DC Safe and OCAP are still operating. CPS, Child and Protective Services as well, are still operating and reaching out to people that may be in unsafe situations to get them out of those situations, and we are assisting them.
Thank you. And then this is the last question we've got for MPD right now. Well, two more, second to last. Has MPD fined anyone for not complying with social distancing? That's from JL. And then we'll move to a question from Samantha Nobles as our last question.
To my knowledge, no one has yet been fined for not complying with the mayor's stay-at-home order. And one of the reasons that is what we're putting out throughout the districts on all the tours is we have what we call our mass gathering cars. They respond out to complaints of large groups. They have been able to use their microphones on their cars to put out a public health and safety announcement. And we've gotten, for the most part, we've gotten all the compliance, all the voluntary compliance that we're looking for with people dispersing. We've been really grateful for the community to be doing what they're supposed to be doing. So unfortunately, I don't have this hard number in front of me, but I'm not aware of anybody that has been fined or non-custodial arrested for the violation.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Sergeant.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you got one more question?
Yes, we had one more question. We had one more from Samantha Nobles. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you if you'll unmute yourself as well, so you can go ahead and ask.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, I just want to thank you guys and also thank MPD for taking questions. I live on the same street as Meredith Barnes, actually, and there's a large contingency of us that are trying to remain involved and in the know and trying to diligently call 911, texting each other about the gun violence and the uptick as of recently. We've all lived here for over 2 years at least. So I echo her sentiment about the concern. I also will just say, I mean, we had in this pandemic with all of us home all day, I mean, we're having gunshots even at 2:30 in the afternoon. So I understand that there's probably a more a frequency during certain hours, but some of us have newborns and are unable to feel comfortable even walking the sidewalks with our babies. And then as of, a couple days ago, I've spoken with Ashley Rosenthal from Sector 3, and she told me about, some of the efforts, which I appreciate, but I was even on my walk the other day, saw in the matter of 2 minutes, saw 3 cop cars bundled at a school and then laying in the back of laying in their chairs, FaceTiming and just kind of chilling. And then also seeing a group posted up on Benning. It was a really nice evening, but all the cops just standing out together talking. I don't want to assume the worst. I want to assume the best for sure. But I struggle because from all appearances, it looked like there was not a whole lot of vigilance, and to us, it's going on every single day. And we're ducking in our homes, we're hiding in rooms, and to walk by and see that, I was discouraged. So I want to know what is happening with investigations and how are we maximizing every moment of the shift to ensure that people like myself feel safe in our neighborhood.
Thank you, Ms. Nobles, for bringing that to my attention. I will. I'm going to reach out to Sergeant Mark Lacomic, who is the sergeant in that direct area on evenings, and we're gonna come up with a solution for that. Would you be willing to tell me where you live at? I know we've spoken before.
Yeah, I live on Bennett Place.
Okay, okay. Was it the 1900 there?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I saw a message. I think Captain Rosenthal, if she's unmuting her microphone, may be able to expand on that.
Commissioner Moore, is she?
So you're unmuted. I don't think we can hear you. I'm gonna try to mute and unmute you again here.
There we go.
Okay.
Captain Rosenthal?
If you're talking, we can't hear you. Okay, no, I don't think we have sound for Captain Rosenthal. If you'd like to, I muted and unmuted you, but if you'd like to type a response, what we can do is come back to you and read out that response if you wanted to type anything.
Okay.
Because you've got your mute turned off, but we'll just wait to see if we hear anything from you.
We lost the sergeant too?
Yes. Okay.
I'm still here.
He's still here. Okay, thank you.
Good.
I just wanted to, Sergeant, just to, number one, when some of those statistics, I take it because we're all at home. That's why the burglaries are down, because everybody's in their home. So there's more vigilance in the daytime when these things were happening. Would you?
I'm hoping so. I don't have any firm facts on exactly why burglaries have gone down, but I know that there are certain things, there are certain crimes that we're just not seeing as much anymore because people are home. I hate to, because I work in policing, I work on facts alone, and
Okay.
without a peer-reviewed study of why burglaries have gone down, I can assume that to be the reason, but I don't want to just come out and say that's what it is. And I've brought this up many times before, because people are home and we are getting 911 calls, we are getting a lot of intelligence on what's going on during the daytime when people otherwise were at work. And I want to come back around to Ms. Nobles and to everybody, really. I'd like to put out my my cell phone number out there if anybody has questions or follow-ups or wants to call. So if y'all can hear me, I don't know how to type. That's why I got accidentally disconnected before. But my phone number is 202-695-5188. I generally work Sunday through Wednesdays, 2 p.m. to 1 a.m. I can be reached via text or call, and I do answer all voicemails.
Repeat that number again, Sergeant.
Sure.
And your name?
Yes. The number is 202-695-5188.
Thank you. And then lastly, I had two more questions for you. Are any of your officers in the 5th District, have they tested positive for the COVID-19?
We've had 4 officers that have tested positive. They're all still in good health and good spirits.
Good.
And we are continually to daily check in on them to make sure there any needs that they may have are being met.
Okay. And then just on behalf of the ANC, sadly, want to give you guys condolences. Lost your last 2 sergeants in 1 week. I know that adds a little stress to the job, especially, those sudden losses like that. So we just let you know that our ANC and myself, we're keeping you guys in prayer.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I'm trying to figure out the chat thing. I would also like to give out my email. I think I can type it in. Yeah, okay, I found out I can type it in. I'm going to type in my chat, my email address and my phone number again so that everybody has it. And this way it's also a matter of official record. So my email is going out and my phone number is going out next.
Okay.
You see it here? Yep.
Yeah, it should be there now.
See the phone number.
Yep, they're both there.
Okay.
And of course, they're both in my minutes as well.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Sergeant. Any other questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Moore, were you able to get in contact with Captain Rosenthal?
I know that she's called back in to see if we can get some sound from her, and I've unmuted her. Captain Rosenthal, you're unmuted. So if you want to start talking, I'll let you know if we can hear you. So no, we're not hearing anything from you right now, but we will follow up on those questions that were specifically for Captain Rosenthal. And if at any point during the meeting, Captain Rosenthal, you want to type something into the group chat to share, you're welcome to do so as well. And we'll definitely make sure to include those specific comments in our meeting minutes. Okay.
Ready?
Okay, well, thank you all so much for allowing me to be a part of this. I very much appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you all again.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Us. Would like we go back to and finish up the reimbursements, even though we have the mayor's office, Mr. Miller, Malik Miller, and Mr. Grant are online, but let's finish up these reimbursements. We have what we're using right now, our Zoom licenses fee for $131.43. We need to make a payment for that, and our FiOS bill. These are our reimbursements to Commissioner Linhan.
Actually, the FiOS bill will be directly to the biller.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah. And as is the ASL interpretation invoices, those are directly to Gallaudet. So the only thing that's reimbursing me is the Zoom license that we're using currently.
Okay. I don't see the, oh, yes, I do. I had to widen my agenda. Okay. Well, let's say I'd like to make a motion that we reimburse Commissioner Linhan for our Zoom service fee. And community, we will be doing our next meeting on Zoom also. So, and any other meetings that might have to happen, we might have to meet with the public, we'll be on Zoom until at the earliest June. So let's let you know, we will be using this service. So I'd like to make a motion, we reimburse Commissioner Linhan $131.43 for the Zoom license. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Blacknell. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 That passes 4-0. The FiOS bill, and this is for Commissioner Linhan. What else is included in that FiOS bill?
This is our internet service. This is a monthly fee. It should look very similar to this every month. So this is Verizon FiOS.
And we also have it also covers our Ring service, our security in the ANC office.
So no, that does not cover Ring. A Ring just requires internet. So we need to pay this internet to keep our Ring service active. But no, this is just for Verizon FiOS.
Okay.
And this is a monthly payment.
All right, this is up. So I'd like to make a motion that we pay our FiOS bill in the amount of $327.90. Can I get a second?
I second.
A second by Commissioner Linhan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And lastly, ASL interpreters, and you see we're using them tonight on the Zoom. So we will continue to use this service. We need to pay the invoice for January, February, and March in the total amount of $1,670. I'd like to make a motion that we're going to continue to use the interpreter service, that we pay our interpreter bill for $1,670. Can I get a second?
A second.
A second by Commissioner Linhan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, that passes 4-0. All right, we already had our public safety report. Mr. Miller, Malik Miller, I'm glad to see you on this evening from the Office of the Mayor. I'll just let you go forward. Mr. Miller?
Hey, you guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, you guys, how you doing today? Happy Tuesday. I have a few updates for you guys and for the community. There's a new hotline for homebound residents, which means that they are not able to go out and go get groceries or anything like that, or even essential items. I have a phone number, which is 1-888-349-8323, or you can also visit coronavirus.dc.gov/get-help. In a response for Mayor Bowser's established comprehensive meal sites, any students under the age of 18, there are 45 meal sites across the district, and a list can be accessed on the food resources page, which is on coronavirus.dc.gov. Starting this week, 10 schools across the district will now serve as grocery sites for families to pick up shelf-stable and other essential grocery items. The food will be available on a first-come, first-served basis. And feel free to, just go out, help yourself in case you aren't able to get out. I know I went past the Safeway on Maryland Avenue and there was a line outside. So I'm not sure if you guys want to stand in line or anything like that, but Aldi's across the street didn't have a line. Also, if you know of any seniors that need meal delivery facilitated through the Department of Aging and Community Living, the hotline is also operational, which will be 202-724-5626. And the call center will conduct a quick assessment and connect you to the appropriate services. Let's see. Also, personal experiences. I know no grocery store or any store that sells food essentials or essential items are letting people in without masks. So I advise everyone to, when you go out, I advise you all to have your mask or you will be turned away. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be N95 mask. I've actually had a mask from a bandana or other cloth items that are able to, in order for you to breathe. Let's see, for unemployment, I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions about unemployment. I know the system has not been as technology savvy when it comes to actually getting through. And I know there's been, long wait times such as 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, anything like that. But you're still able to call 202-724-7000 for your unemployment, or you can also connect with dcnetworks.org. Now, I would advise you all to call at let's see, probably rare times like 2 p.m., 1 p.m., stuff like that. I know a lot of people are waking up and just calling as soon as they wake up, but I would advise you guys to call in the evening time only because the call value wouldn't be as high. Also, we have public testing sites for appointment only. At UMC, for an appointment, you should call 1-855-363-0333. You also can get tested at GW United Medical Center, Children's National Health Center, All Care Family Medicine and Urgent Care, which is in Ward 5, the Mary Center and Unity Healthcare Center. And all of the phone numbers to those sites will be on coronavirus.dc.gov. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. The public have any questions for Mr. Miller?
And this is just a quick reminder to folks. I just want to make sure that folks are using the settings to the best of their ability. If you have a question, you scroll down to the bottom of your Zoom screen and you'll see the raise hand button. So for those folks who have questions, there's also a chat option so that we can see you type in a question. That will appear for those of us who are actually running the meeting. Also, for those people who are using the ASL services, I just want to remind you that you can change the view in the top right corner. I've done a spotlight view for everyone right now so that we can all see this message. So if you're using ASL interpreting and you can't see your interpreter here on the screen, I just want to make sure that you know that at any point during this meeting, you can click in the top right-hand corner to change that view so that she's the only person that you can see on the main screen, and then the rest of us would be just in the corner. So I do see that we had some hands raised, but then those hands went back down. So I'm not seeing the hands anymore. So I'll take that as a no longer having a question. But we'll give it a minute here for any other folks who might want to raise their hand and are trying to locate that button, which is at the bottom of your screen. Okay. I see two people who said they have a question. We've got Zach Hoffman. So I'm gonna go to view you, Zach. I don't see your hand raised, but I'm gonna get over there and try to unmute you. Give me just a moment. In the meantime, if folks want to type questions in, that's a pretty quick way to get in touch with us as well. Let's see. So Zach, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. You can go ahead and ask your question now.
Yeah, you guys can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. I just had more questions about unemployment. I represent the DC Bar and Restaurant Workers Alliance here in DC. We're having reports of people being on hold for up to 8 hours a day, not being able to get through to operators, still being denied benefits based on work search requirements that have been waived. And we know that they've only reached about 25,000 of the 60,000+ UI claims. Is there any efforts to make the system work better? Because people are going on over a month now without any kind of support.
Yes, we're in touch with DOES on a regular for the unemployment. We're trying to get now we have a lot of volunteers from the mayor's office that'll be going down to help out with the unemployment center. So hopefully the wait times won't be that long. But if there's any specific pressing questions, I'll type my any specific cases, I'll type my my email and my phone number in the chat.
Okay, it just generally the entire consensus of the bar and restaurant workforce is that the system is not working for almost anyone. Very few people have been able to access benefits.
Okay. And then this is just a reminder to all of the panelists. If you're typing into the chat, make sure not to select the all panelists option, but the panelists and attendees option so that those folks in the audience can see what you're typing as well. Okay, thanks for your question, Zach. We're gonna move on. Next question from Gordon Chafin. Gordon, you're unmuted. So if you'd like to go ahead and speak.
Hi, thank you. My question is in regards to the drive-up testing sites that have been created in the district. As far as the people who are going to be tested, do those individuals have to arrive in a car, or can they walk up to that site having used public transportation or their own 2 feet?
That's a good question. Let me flag that up really quick.
Okay. All right, thanks for that question. Anyone else have a question? You can find the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen, or you can type a chat, and that function is also at the bottom of your screens as well. It looks like that's all for the mayor's office right now.
All righty. Mr. Grant, from Councilmember McDuffie's office, our Ward 5 liaison. Go ahead, sir. Can you unmute Mr. Grant? There we go. Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hope all is well and that you all are staying safe as possible. I wanted to give a couple of updates. I saw really quickly in the chat that there was a question about the number of COVID-19 cases in the ward. And as of yesterday, we have 257 cases. I don't have data on the recoveries or the deaths, but I do have a raw number of 257. The council member has been in contact with the mayor and her staff on a daily basis on a call every day, midday. And essentially, as many responses to the emergencies as possible he's tried to be able to bring to their attention. I want to thank this ANC for being in communication with me prior to this meeting and providing me with updates. And for our entire staff, we've been talking to civic leaders, ANCs, and trying to retrieve as much information as we can. And essentially what we've been doing is relaying that information to the council member. And on those calls with the mayor, he's seeking answers to any questions that we relay to him. As you all know, I've talked about this a few times in previous meetings. Over the last year, maybe even 2 years, the council member has been focused on racial equity. And yet again, in this COVID-19 crisis, racial equity is a need, and it's a focus that he is zooming in on. Earlier today, around 4 p.m. on Facebook, he had essentially a video conference / town hall about racial equity specific to COVID-19 and how it's impacting Black businesses. I just want to give you guys some information on what's happening right now with COVID-19, specific to African Americans in DC. African Americans make up 46% of the population, but the deaths of COVID-19 victims, there's 73% of those that are African American. So there's a total of 52 deaths in this city, and 38 of those are African American deaths. On March 23rd, the council member sent a letter out to the entire council and the mayor asking to put a focus on responding to the disparities around deaths with respect to African Americans. And so the mayor has responded by adding testing sites east of the river. And there is a testing site at the United Medical Center. And individuals who are DC residents who are 65 years or older can get tested at that site. The healthcare providers or individuals with symptoms who work in healthcare facilities are also eligible. First responders with symptoms who work for DC government, and also DC residents with symptoms who have an underlying health condition, including but not limited to asthma, diabetes, and chronic lung disease. I think Malik may have mentioned the hotline number for UMC. There's also a GW medical system number, which I can put in the chat, and a few other numbers as well that are available for individuals who are within those requirements of eligibility. So the council member, again, wants to ensure that all people have access to testing, and that if there are any disparities, that we address them and try to find as many solutions as possible. Just one final thing specific to the ANCs. As many of you know, back on April 7th, the council passed a supplemental emergency legislation in response to COVID-19. And so with the ANCs may call a meeting remotely and participate in that meeting and vote on matters before their commissions without being physically present through teleconference or through any other digital means. Members physically or remotely can be deemed present and can be counted toward the determination of a quorum. And so that's important for you guys as ANC commissioners to be able to continue to do your business. The focus of the council member, and we're fortunate that that particular amendment was added so that you all can. So those are the highlights of my report. And if there are any questions, whether it be through video or through chat, I'll try my best to respond to them.
Okay. So just to remind folks, as we're all getting used to this, the raise your hand function is at the bottom of your Zoom panels. So if you want to scroll down, there's the raise your hand option, and there's also the chat option. So I don't see any hands. Oh, I do see one hand now. Zach Hoffman, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you so that you can ask a question to the Ward 5 Council Member's office.
Hey guys, I'm me again. Hey Silas.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Good.
Quick question. I know there's been a lot of kind of discussion in the media regarding allowing venues that have a nightclub license to serve takeout food, and that's not currently allowed under that emergency legislation. There's a lot of businesses that employ people in and out of the ward that, due to their fact they do have a nightclub license, are unable to participate in takeout and delivery services that would be able to employ people. Is there any movement with the council member to support any kind of an amendment to that legislation to allow nightclubs to participate in delivery and takeout services for food?
To my knowledge, he is exploring that option. I've not received a definite response to that, but what I'll do is make note of that to get an answer from him after tomorrow's call with the mayor.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Silas, this is Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
And in that discussion about the disparities of the COVID-19 and the Black community, one of the things that I'm just observing is that, and it's been on the news all weekend, but when we look at our community, because they have the hourly wage jobs, and well, some of them are essential now, and they're working in the grocery stores and the things that get them out in the public. And then because, multi-generational families living in the same household, which means that the workers out there, they bring it back to the person at home that might be suffering one of those chronic ailments. I mentioned this in a conversation with Mr. Miller. Is there anything out there about that's closing the stores on Sunday, giving them opportunity to thoroughly clean and giving the workers a break at this time? Because the constant opening of the stores means that people are constantly under risk. Right. And at this time, I wouldn't have a problem with a store being closed on Sunday, especially to clean. Right. And that would give them a time really to clean and stock the shelves and have less people in the stores at that time when we're there, in order to, kind of close the gap and spreading this virus. Yeah, any discussion to that nature?
So, as you may know, some of the franchises, the grocers and so forth have on their own limited their time to be able to do some of that. But I've not been made aware of any official opinion or statement from the council or the mayor on having a day dedicated to closing. I'll definitely take that up the chain and see if that recommendation is well received, and then I'll get back to you on that.
And then on the public, it's by raise of hand, Commissioner Moore. Can we see does anybody agree with me with that or think that's a good idea?
We can send out a poll on that. So I'll do that while we're getting a response to this next question. Okay. Joanna has a question here. What is being done to mitigate the recent uptick in violence?
Right. So, as you all may have seen online on Twitter or maybe in news reports, there have been a number of shootings, not only in Ward 5, but across the city. And so, that is an answer that I don't have that's a question I don't have a direct answer for at this moment. I know that MPD has been focused on responding to a number of emergencies. And so that's been somewhat of a thorn in their normal deployment. We are still also relying on the violence interrupters in those areas that have traditionally had those rivalries. But some of these issues are not based on long-standing rivalries, but in many instances, situations that are, one, outside of the boundaries of where they work, but then secondly, outside of the boundaries of how they work. So we don't have any solidified answer to that response at this moment. And a lot of that has to do with the MPD's inability to respond in terms of deployment because of the emergency period. So we've been reaching out to them, not just about violent crime, but also theft from auto. That's been another big concern throughout the ward in 5th District as well as 3rd District. And so again, there's been some resource challenges with MPD, and we're going to continue to be in contact with them to figure out when they can be able to have more of a focus on the violent crime once we get to the point where this emergency period kind of tapers off.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Any other questions for Mr. Grant?
There's one follow-up question from Joanna. Also, what is being done to let citizens in this ward know about job opportunities? Not all in the community have internet access. I suggest posting info on buses and the streetcar.
Right. So I'm not certain if that question is in response to job opportunities that are coming about as a result of organizations looking to beef up staff in response to the emergency. We've not received a host of opportunities that are paid. We've received a lot of volunteer opportunities, but if that question is specific to jobs related to the emergency, we've not received a host of those. But if we do, we will definitely keep that in mind that, again, everyone doesn't have internet access. And we'll do to the best of our abilities what we can to make sure that we widen the way in which it's distributed.
Okay, we have another question here. It says this is from Sabrina Rhodes, I believe I've got that right. The positive cases, were they tested before or after their symptoms? How are the senior or homebound residents being reached for testing? They may not understand that they qualify.
Right, so we don't have the details on the point in which people were tested. So I don't have an answer for that. With respect to the senior or homebound residents being reached for testing, one thing our office has tried to do on a weekly basis is we've had conference calls with ANCs and civics, and we've been trying to lean as much as we can on those ANC and civic leaders to give us feedback on who they are in contact with, who are they in communication with. There are, as we know, a number of situations where homebound residents in some instances may get overlooked. And so, we're trying to lean as much as we can on the SMD representatives to give us that sort of information. We've been in constant communication with the folks that are in senior buildings. Every Monday for the past 4 weeks, we've been working with Martha's Table to provide warm meals for seniors in those senior facilities. But one thing that we admit that we need to find a better plan for is identifying as many homebound seniors as possible.
So that's all I had in terms of questions. Any questions from the commissioners?
There was a question about mailers going out at the bottom here too.
Okay.
I have to check with the Department on Aging and Community Living about the mailers. I know there's been a lot of online distribution, and I think one of the things about door-to-door, Joanna, has been, putting people at risk of going to the door. So I don't know that that'll be an optimal option, but the mailers could potentially be an option. And what I will do is add that to my notes to send to the council member, because there may have to be an adjustment in the budget for those mailers, and that can only happen right now through the mayor's office. So him having a request to the mayor to increase the mailing budget for agencies like the Department of Aging and Community Living for those mailers, that may be necessary.
Okay, got it. That's the last of the questions I see in the chat window or from people having their hands raised. So that's all for the council member's office, looks like.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have a FY 2020 budget. Commissioner Linhan.
All right, let me screen share here just to make sure we're all seeing the same thing.
And then for those of you following along at home, you can look in the chat window and see that I've just included a link to the agenda for tonight's meeting. And so those documents that we're looking at on your screen are also linked there if you'd like to go back and look at them later.
This also includes any receipts or any invoices. So we please make sure you're checking the hyperlinks on our agenda. So Commissioner Moore and I have gone over this budget here for fiscal year 2020. And it just looks like we've made a lot of purchases already, as you all are aware. So you can see here the direct office costs. That is something that we've already spent. Wanted to make sure we have enough money to pay our executive administrators, who we are bringing in as we speak, and additional communications. But please, if there's any questions regarding the budget, please direct that towards Commissioner Moore or myself.
Any questions from the commissioners, especially? I don't see any raised hands at this time from the audience, but I'll keep my eye on the chat as well for audience members.
No questions, Commissioner Moore?
I have a screen share, so I'm not unable to see this right now.
I said Commissioner Moore, is any questions?
Not seeing any.
All right. Well, I'd like to make a motion to support the budget as shown here.
Commissioner Linehan and the public, this budget started, it's for October 1st through September 30th.
Correct.
That's the fiscal year for the ANC. And with that, Commissioner Linehan, can you make your motion?
I'd like to make a motion to support the fiscal year 2020 budget.
I'll second that motion.
All right.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes 4-0. Oh, I dropped my agenda. Next on the agenda. 21st and I Street camera requests. Commissioner Moore.
So this speaks to some of the issues that I think we've heard addressed in terms of crime in our community. This has been an outstanding request that ANC 5D has had. We've made that request to MPD. Captain Rosenthal is very much in support of this request, and she submitted it up through the ranks of MPD. And we're really forwarding this letter at this time because it's been part of an ongoing conversation. MPD is on board, and now what happens is that as an ANC, if we're to submit a letter of support, it requires a response from the mayor's office, including the deputy mayor of public safety. So this is our way of helping to expedite the request now that we've done all the necessary work in the background to make sure that this is going to be a helpful choice for our community. I just want to make it clear that this is in addition to and not in lieu of some of the other requests that we've made around public safety. Even the inclusion of speed bumps on several of the most troubled blocks of 21st Street, we think will help make it a less attractive choice for those people who are shooting and then driving down 21st Street as their getaway route at a high rate of speed. And so we want to do as much as we possibly can to make it a less attractive route for people who are coming into our community to do these things, and to make it easier for MPD to catch people and add absolutely as many deterrents as possible so that we can prevent crime. This camera is one of those deterrents. But it's certainly not the only one. I know Captain Rosenthal didn't get to speak, but she and I have had extensive conversations about, the issues at 21st and I, at 21st and Bennett Place. And so we want to continue to see progress there. And this is one of the tools we have available to really make sure that that happens. Commissioner Blacknell has been in on a lot of those conversations, and it's something that the property management of all the nearby buildings are also supporting.
Commissioner Moore, on this camera, you're talking the permanent one that's on the pole, not the temporary camera?
Exactly.
Okay, just want to be sure on that,
Mm-hmm.
right? You'd like to make that motion? You'd like our support as an ANC?
Yes, I would.
Okay, make the motion, Commissioner Moore.
I move that we support an official request to the mayor's office for a permanent camera located at 21st and I Street Northeast.
And that's seconded by Commissioner Blacknell.
Yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That passes 4-0. Continue, Commissioner Moore. Well, you spoke on the speed hump review. Commissioner, I just want to ask Commissioner Blacknell, do you want to add what Commissioner Moore just spoke about on the speed humps? Anything you want to add to that?
There is some in reference to the same areas.
No, I'm saying you have any comments or anything you want to detail on that?
Okay, well, first of all, we need one down here where I live at 2114 I Street, going around it where the school is down there. That's a getaway spot for the drug dealers and everything.
So,
and also,
No, go ahead.
And also, coming down I Street and going around Maryland Avenue. We really need to focus on speed humps in that area, and also in Converters and on Bennett Place.
So, Commissioner Moore, I see in your letter, you're not listing the locations?
So those locations that Commissioner Blacknell referenced were already in another request that went out last month for speed humps. So I think we already voted on those and submitted that request to DDOT. So they're already working on the review. This one is in addition to those locations. And you can see at the top there, this one is just specifically for Bennett Place. And so we're both on this one because as many people who live on Bennett Place recognize, one side of the street is 5D04 and the other side of the street is 5D05. And so we're both listed here to make it clear that both commissioners are in support of the speed bump request. I know the neighbors there discussed it on their internal Facebook group, I believe it is, and had support there. With social distancing, we didn't want to ask people to do any type of petition or circulate anything. So we're taking that at face value that those neighbors agreed.
Okay. You'd like to make that motion, Commissioner Moore?
Yes. So I move that the commission support the request for speed humps on the 1900 block of Bennett Place Northeast.
Second.
I second it.
Second by Commissioner Blacknell. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That passes 4-0. Commissioner Moore, you have one more?
Yes.
Two more.
So there is a resident-only parking request on the 1000 block of 18th Street Northeast. So I just want to make sure folks understand this. What happens is that if you're on a block that already has a residential parking permit required, which means you pay the $35, I believe it is, a year, and you have the sticker that goes in your windshield. If you still see that you're having out-of-state parking and other problems, and you've been in that program for at least a year, you can then request that it become resident-only parking, which is a stricter form of parking enforcement. Many of the blocks in our area don't have residential parking at all, and so aren't eligible to receive this upgrade to resident-only parking. But the block listed here, the blocks listed here do currently have residential parking permits and are eligible for increased enforcement. I think having uniform increases in the enforcement level helps get us better service from DPW and from MPD, because they know what the rules are on every single block in this area. They're consistent and they don't have to go guessing from block to block what the different rules might be. And so this would be a request to upgrade the residential permit parking on the blocks listed so that they're resident only parking.
Like to make that motion? Commissioner Moore.
Yes, I move that we send a request to get resident only permit parking on the listed blocks to DDOT.
Okay.
I second.
That motion has been seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion passes 4-0. Amended resolution for grant protocol, emergency changes. Commissioner Moore.
Yes. So I'm also, as an ANC commissioner, we, as many of you know, stood up a grants committee. We're still looking for members. So if you go to our website, anc5d.org, we're asking people to please sign up to join the grants committee. That committee, in addition to what's required by DC law, also has a lot of processes and procedures that we think will help keep things professional and make sure that we're making good decisions with your tax funded grant monies that are specifically for this community. One small change that we did want to make, especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, is to have an emergency clause so that we as commissioners, as a supermajority, can vote to fund worthy projects within our community in cases where there's an emergency, a natural disaster, or a large uptick in crime. And so we've defined sort of what those things mean in our update to our community grants language. We wouldn't be suspending anything that's required of us by DC law in making that change, but we do want to make it a simpler process so that we're not waiting a month for the grants committee to review a grant in the middle of an emergency. And so I'd like to move that we support the emergency language being added to our ANC 5D community grant rules.
Okay. One thing, Commissioner Moore, what do you define as a supermajority?
So a supermajority in this instance is defined as a 2/3 majority. Okay. So depending on the number of commissioners we have, we're down a commissioner right now. So we need 4 of the 6 or 4 of the 7. If we lost another commissioner, we'd need 3 of the 5. So
yes, all right.
Mm-hmm. So I just move that we support the change in language to our grant procedures for ANC 5D to allow us to make grants as a supermajority in cases of emergency or natural disaster.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That motion passes 4-0. Next on the agenda, we have a grant request for face shields, 3D printing supply, well, 3D printing supplies. Mr. Horgan, is he on the line?
He is, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull you up now, Kevin, and unmute you so that we can hear from you. Okay. All right, you should be unmuted. I think you might be remuting yourself. Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to, hold on a second.
Okay, and if you could just put on a headphone or.
Yes.
And if you wouldn't mind cutting your video on so people can see you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Oh, I can't.
It's re-adding him as a panelist.
So it's shifting.
Yeah.
Video on an iPad and the other, so I can do a screen share. So, so Dale, do me a favor and mute whatever I'm talking to you right now on.
Okay. Let's see.
Here we go.
Okay, it looks like we've got you. Now, which one would you like to have muted? I see a very adorable dog in the corner. Is the dog going to be muted?
He's here. Kevin is here now. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so hopefully you're seeing my video.
Okay.
Is that working?
It is, but we're getting a bad echo. Okay, can you try again for us here?
Test, test, test.
Okay, much better.
Okay, yeah, I think my laptop. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a screen share. If I can figure out how to do this. Share screen. We do this. Host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Okay. You should be a panelist at this point.
Try that.
Let's see here.
If you wanted to, you could also, I emailed you the copy of the presentation if you wanted to bring that up.
Okay. All right. And you could try, if you'll try it again now, you should be a co-host at this point. So you should be able to screen share.
Okay.
No.
I joined with 2 accounts, one on my iPad, one on the laptop.
Okay. Well, then let's make your laptop a co-host. All right. Now are you?
Yeah. And now,
Okay.
now I can.
We've all got a lot of screens going here, folks, so if you'll just bear with us. I did want to circle back while Kevin's pulling that up to one question here about the 21st and I Street camera request. And it was a question as to what the council member has done to support that request or other requests. For the most part, I just want to make it clear to folks that the council member has been very supportive of all of those requests, but the direct request for public safety items like cameras, even temporary cameras, actually goes directly to the mayor's office. So that's, you know, in addition to MPD, that's the major approval point for those items. Okay. All right, Kevin, we can see your screen if you want to go ahead and tell us what we're looking at.
Okay. All right. So my name is Kevin Horgan. I'm a resident. I live on Neal Street down by the 7-Eleven. And I'm an engineer by trade. And I just happen, part of my work, I have a 3D printer at home. About 3 weeks ago, I learned that people were 3D printing medical protection equipment and donating them. So I kind of got involved. Here's a picture of a particular design you're going to see more of right now. So what this grant I'm applying here is, I'm applying for a project, and the idea is to build and distribute without cost to anybody face shields, and using a design which has got undergone a review by the National Institute for Health. There's a website link there. If you Google it, you'll find it. They basically, there's been a huge community effort. People, it's like throwing pasta on a wall and see what sticks. There's been a lot of different designs submitted to the NIH, but they basically curated them, and they're giving recommendations for certain designs have been like tested in clinical environments and approved. Particular design I've been building for the past 3 weeks. You can see a picture of it here. It's basically a very simple design. There's a headband that you 3D print. The shield portion is literally plastic dividers that go into folders, and you just buy them off Amazon. And then there's an elastic headband. I got my material off Etsy. In late March, so I got involved with a group called Maryland Makers Unite, hosted by We the Builders. There's a link there. Sidel, you can put this link presentation online if you want later. So I started out by making the headbands for about 34 face shields, and then some friends and acquaintances learned I was building these, and I started getting hit up by a lot of different people saying stuff like, hey, my daughter's a nurse, you know, or my daughter's a doctor somewhere, and she doesn't have a face shield. And I got a lot of requests like that. So I bought the extra materials to build and assemble the full face shield, and I've just been like making as many as I can. The 3D printer in the spare room has not stopped going for 3 weeks. Since April 1st, I've been making my own, and it's been very kind of ad hoc. Whoever happens to know me just happens to reach out and text me on Facebook, Messenger, whatever. So I've just been sending them all over the place. You know, it's pretty slow though. Right now I'm doing 6 to 8 shields per day. It's slow, but I tell you what, I receive a lot of text messages and photographs of people on the front lines sending me a picture like, I have a face shield now. And I should state the reason the face shields are important. A lot of first responders, they're being like issued 1 mask per day. these are like people in hospitals dealing with COVID patients, and they're being given one N95 mask per day. And what the face shield does is it allows the, after seeing a patient, they can disinfect and clean down the face shield, and it stops the N95 mask from getting contaminated and allows that N95 mask to last longer. So right now I'm making 6 to 8 per day.
Okay.
This is I got some images actually from my spare room, and I might even pick up the iPad in a few minutes here and walk over and so you can see a print being made, but that's kind of what the headband looks like. And these are just some photographs of me last week. And I think on the previous page, I'm going to jump back. So as of right now, I've done 34 headbands to Open Works, and I've donated, I think I had the number up here somewhere, but I think the total is like 79. So I'm up to about like 113 and counting, and I'm making as many as I can. This has all been out of my pocket, and that's the way I'm going to keep doing it, because no one who's asking me, these are people who need them. And, you know, I've had somebody reach out to me who lives with an immunocompromised person, but they're an essential employee. And I think they work in a grocery store. I shipped that person a mask in Cleveland. I've shipped masks up to Mount Sinai in New York when they put a call out for PPE. Basically, whoever comes to me, I make masks. And I ship them or I drop them off. Actually, just last weekend, I dropped off 10 face shields to Engine 10 on Florida Ave, because I know one of my coworkers knows someone who's a fireman there. We reached out and we asked, hey, do you guys need something? And they're like, absolutely. So I dropped off 10 face shields. It's pretty slow. Usually as soon as I make them, they get pushed out. I do want to note that DC Public Library has a maker lab. And about 2 weeks ago, I reached out to Commissioner Moore to see if we could get a hold of those printers. My understanding is that there is an agreement in principle to give us the printers. And we're just waiting on final approval, and hopefully we receive them this week. This community grant application, it's not for a lot, it's for $497. And the goal is to cover the materials and supplies for me to operate those printers. Now, I am teleworking full-time and I'm pretty busy, so my hope actually is to enlist other neighbors, people who feel comfortable with this type of stuff. And so the idea is hopefully we'll get the printers in. I'll make sure the printers are healthy and working good. We'll get them set up for printing, and we'll push the printers out. And the idea is just to increase production and continue to make as many of these as possible. The objective is to build 200 face shields for distribution to anyone in the community. And now, unlike my previous shields that I was making out of my own pocket, where I just kind of gave them to ad hoc, these ANC funded shields are going to be tightly controlled, and we're going to try to keep them because it's within the ANC. The way the law is written for ANC grants, the face shields have to be given to support the local community. So we're going to focus on healthcare facilities, nursing homes. But I've also added, essential workers. Like at some point, people working in grocery stores and who take care of our trash and do all parts of community. Anyone who needs a face shield as part of their job should be able to get one. And I know the factories are gearing up, and we keep hearing stories that factories will soon be flooding the market with millions of these, but they're not here yet. And I can tell you that because I get the emails every day. So this is the goal. Hopefully with this funding, we can make about 200 face shields. And I just created an email address. It's all of 30 minutes old, called flattenthecurve5d@gmail.com. And if you or someone needs a face shield, drop a line there. I expect that's going to get flooded. That's okay. We'll help use that to kind of understand the need. And there are other methods of building face shields, and we can look into them that are more efficient. But for right now, my ask today is for $497. And hopefully the DC library shows up soon with the 3D printers. And I think that's it. I'm going to stop my screen share and actually go back to the iPad if I can figure out how to do this. And are you seeing my video here?
Yep, we're seeing you.
All right, I'm going to go for a walk through the house. I'm going to figure out how to switch
Commissioner
camera.
Moore.
Yes.
as he's doing that, did you see that last question in the chat?
Will the ANC make the determination on who is eligible? So that's a good question.
Yes.
And no. What we do is that we follow the law, and we say that this grant funding has to be something that will benefit the ANC 5D community. So we set requirements that say, for instance, that first responders within our community, those people who are working on the front lines within our community would receive first priority. But what we cannot do as part of the law is say, this individual person receives a face shield and that individual person does not. We're not allowed to issue grants, and this is just a part of the DC law for all ANC grants, is that we are not allowed to do any type of individual gifts. Even in a situation like this where you see that there's a specific need. What we are allowed to do is set criteria for the grantee on how they are to distribute items made with our funding, and that's as through organizations, not to specific individuals. And that's just simply due to a requirement in the ANC grant law.
Now, and as I saw the question also, and when I saw it, the first thing that came to my mind was the employees at Safeway and Aldi. Our first line, they're not first responders, but our first line workers, the ones that the essential workers we have in the grocery stores in the area. And also we have a new senior citizen home on Blainsburg Road, those facilities, because, and even the stores, the corner stores, if they're open.
Right.
Most of them have the bulletproof shields, but the mainly came to mind was Aldi's and Safeway to grant those worker protections, which then protects us. So in that aspect of it, I can support it in that way, going to those. And the fire department, I'm sure they need more than 10.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so all of those are organizations, but that's a good question.
Yeah.
And then the second part of your question I see here from Joanna is, do they have to be DC residents? And the answer to that question is yes.
Yes. Well, not the firemen.
The firemen don't have to be DC residents, but the criteria has to be that they live or work within our commission area, or in a facility in the surrounding area that benefits our constituents. So let's say, for instance, we don't have a hospital within the boundaries of, my single member district. Well, that doesn't mean that people from my single member district don't go to the neighboring hospital nearby. So it's that kind of criteria that the law lays out that basically says you have to be able to make a case that it benefits the residents of your area. So if someone's in our community fighting fires, then yes, it benefits the residents of our area. But that's where that criteria comes from. But it couldn't be that we gave it to a senior's home in Maryland.
Right. So Kevin, so you, in this grant, you're asking us to make 200 shields?
That's the goal. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, that assumes that I get 3 working printers from the DC Public Library. So, we understand, my understanding is one printer works great, one printer might be finicky, and another printer doesn't work. So my goal is to get the printers and check out each one. Once I know it's good, push it out to another neighbor and just get them as, as a member of the assembly line. And so that's the goal. If we can get all 3 printers, these other printers coming in, they're not as effective as the printer that I have, which is borrowed from work. But we should be able to get, my hope is similar production. So hopefully we can, that's the goal. The $497 grant application, that is basically the cost of the filament in order and the materials for the headbands and the face shields to build 200. Now, if it turns out that we don't get all the library printers, and in the meantime, something else better comes along and we don't need it, well, I don't need to spend all the money, but the hope is is to get these printers working.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate, by the way, the idea of, because eventually I think the factory supply will kick in and you'll find that hospitals will have access to PPE, but I think you'll find that people who work at Safeway won't have access to stuff like this. So, I mean, I love the idea of pushing these out to as many people as possible. You know, I believe me, I get a lot of, I pushed out 60-something face shields right now to other people, and I get the photographs. So.
Well, the according to the poll with 24, how many people we have? Well, we got 60 participants, but right now only 20. Is that a time limit on the poll, Commissioner Moore?
It's not a time limit, but people stopped responding a few minutes ago, so I went ahead and decided to share the results.
Okay. Out of the 24, you have 100% who would like us to. Was that the grant?
Yes.
To fulfill the grant.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I see Commissioner Blacknell applauding.
Yes, I am, because you know what I do. You know exactly what I do.
I'd like to hear your comment instead of your applause.
Or a motion.
I would like to put a motion for us ANC commissioners to support this, because I know how hard it is, because I'm one of them healthcare workers, okay? And I know how hard it is to find them shields, because I'm looking.
Yes.
Okay. So, but then also I'm saying that, you know, the fire department.
The fire department, yeah.
And I mean, I would like to just keep it in the ward, in our commission. So I'm with Safeway and Aldi workers, and the fire department, and the Metropolitan Police Department. I don't know if we can give them just to our sector, but I wouldn't limit it. Well, it would be nice if they're just in our sector, so we can have the officers can have those shields also. Because somebody did make a comment if they could. Well, I had an incident in my alley, and the officers were after the incident was over, they were speaking with social distance. They were all 6 feet apart. So they are practicing. I will say that they are practicing social distance, but I could, if I would be limited to it only be within the ANC in those locations, since it's only 200 shields also.
Right. I think the way the language is written in the application is that the shields that we pay for, all of that would be first priority to frontline first responders and essential workers who work within the boundaries of our area. And then, you know, Kevin's also funding some shields additionally out of his own pocket. And those could go as he sees fit. But I just want to make clear that the ones that we're funding the materials for, that language is in the language of the grant request. And then I just had one quick note keeping comment. We'll lose interpreting services at 9 p.m. So I just wanted to make that comment in terms of keeping the commission on schedule for this. And
I will second that motion. Commissioner Blacknell made a motion for.
Yes. And second by Commissioner Linham. We're going to move forward then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 4-0. So let's move forward while we still have an interpreter. Requested presentations. I'm sorry, we should is someone there from the Water Division, Commissioner Moore?
So if we've got someone from the Water Division, if you'll go ahead and press the raise hand button so that we can recognize you if you're not already a panelist.
And also 6th Street Development, so we can move right through this, and West Virginia Bright Lane projects. I do see a Will Hansfield online. Is he the only one here, Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
So let's go with Will Hansfield.
Let's go ahead and yes. Great, thank you, Will.
Hi, and I believe my colleagues Kevin Harrison and Kelly Jong Olson are also on the line. Kevin was gonna launch us off, but I can do it too if we have any technical difficulties.
No, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, so I'm gonna upgrade you so that you're a co-host and you can share. So it'll.
And can you make your presentation as quick as
on.
possible? We only have 19 minutes of interpreter, and we have 2 other presentations if they show up.
Okay, we're getting
Yeah.
right into it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'll make this as quick as possible. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
So, can you see my cursor?
Yes. You good?
Okay.
Go ahead. Go for
Good to
it.
know. All right, so we're going to give some background on why we're doing bike lanes in the district and in Ward 5 and ANC 5D. Then we're going to get right into talking about the Brentwood Parkway Protected Bike Lane Project and also the West Virginia Avenue Northeast Protected Bike Lane Project. So why do we do these projects? There are a number of reasons. Affordability, both for the public sector and for individuals who ride bikes. Reduced emissions, and also resiliency. Regardless of the situation you find yourself in, this is one more option when other options aren't available. During these times, it can be particularly important. So why is DC installing bike lanes? A lot of these reasons to bike resonated with DC residents, and it's become part of some of our planning documents. So DDOT has our marching orders to improve these bicycle facilities. These are some of the goals set forward in those plans in terms of increasing the share of non-single occupancy vehicle trips. Right now in the district, we're at about 50%, and we would like to increase the share of walk, bike, and transit trips. And then since many of those plans came out, scooters have become a big part of the DC streetscape. And so if we can provide safer places for them to go other than the sidewalk, that will be good for everybody. So this is the ANC 5D area as it's represented in Move DC. The plans that we're presenting here are consistent with that district-wide plan that was put forward in 2014. This is a really good graphic, I think, and we'll probably refer back to this concept a few times tonight. A small percentage of people are really comfortable and confident riding a bicycle without any sort of bicycle facility. A few more, somewhat confident. If you have a bike lane or a quiet neighborhood street, they'll be pretty comfortable. But if you really want to make bicycle infrastructure that is attractive to a larger audience, you need to do something better than just a bike lane. We want to make this something that can be used by seniors, children, anybody who's interested in riding a bike should be able to ride one. And so protected bike lanes are one of the measures that we're using in the district to achieve these goals. You may see them on M Street or L Street downtown. Also, Florida Avenue has a project that was recently installed. Why protected bike lanes? As I alluded to earlier, it's about broadening the audience, making sure that more people can see themselves and imagine feeling comfortable in such a bike facility. It's also easier for motorists to understand exactly, where the bikes are supposed to be and where people driving their car should be. So some of the basic elements of a protected bike lane that you'll hear us discussing are the buffer, which is some sort of vertical element or paint striping that divides the parking or driving lane from people on bikes or on scooters. We'll keep referring to this as a bike lane just because it's become part of our vocabulary. But as I mentioned before, this is also for people using any number of mobility devices that have become more prominent recently. And then it's usually adjacent to the sidewalk or occasionally center running on the move. And so with that, I'm gonna introduce my colleague. Oh, excuse me, there's one more slide here. This is the New York Avenue Trail and Streetscape Plan. This is a plan that has been in the works for a long time. And this is the the most recent work that's come out on it came out in 2017, and it's laid out a lot of the plans for bike lanes and bike paths in the area. And you know, this is these projects are among some of the first steps to really develop some of this infrastructure that is anticipated to be part of this New York Avenue streetscape and trail. And to begin with, we're going to talk about Brentwood Parkway. And for that, I'm going to have my colleague, Will Hansfield, talk about that.
Okay, and this is my part. I hope everyone can hear me. If you enable my screen sharing, again, this is Will Hansfield. I'll kick over to my screen and we can share from there. Okay.
I can also advance the slides as necessary if that's easier.
That might be easier.
Okay, I think
and then you should have that ability now.
Okay, I'm just going to click over. This should work. There. And let me get into the, where's my little, there we are. Thanks for bearing with us. Okay, so Brentwood Parkway, everyone's pretty familiar with this road. It runs from 9th Street Bridge down to Penn Street. It continues across the bridge. We're not going to talk about that section for now. Also connects to Mount Olivet. This would be a continuation of the existing 6th Street cycle track that runs past Union Market. It's been very successful. What we're really looking to do is connect more of these facilities across town. In the future, we'll probably be looking to connect from 9th Street Bridge into Brookland, another part of Ward 5. Right now, we're trying to just reach the bridge itself and get people onto the sidewalk primarily. The bridge was constructed in 2011, and it lacks some of the more modern elements that we would normally include, but it does have pretty generous sidewalks. We're also looking ahead at Mount Olivet in coming years, and Kevin's going to talk about the West Virginia project. But right now, we're within the comment period for Brentwood. It ends April 21st, so just coming right up. We are going to be talking about the project details, but just as Kevin mentioned, we were in Move DC and New York Avenue Trail and Streetscape for the same segment. And this is what it looks like today. It goes along, the two adjacent properties are the KIPP College Prep School and Gallaudet University. We met with Jacques Patterson from KIPP on site about a month and a half ago. And they're very favorable for the project, and Gallaudet University as well. We talked to their government relations person 2 weeks ago, and they're supportive. One of the things that Jacques Patterson told us was they have a lot of their students coming up from the Noma Metro by scooter, and they're all over the sidewalk and sometimes in the street, and so they were pretty interested in this project happening. They asked us to wait until school was out in the summer to construct. I think if all goes well now, since school is out, we would try to construct as soon as possible, so that whenever they come back, that it's ready. The main concern was there's a bus pickup and drop off. They use Metro buses, part of the school pickup and drop off. So we're going to provide a bus platform as part of this that we install. So there's a level boarding out onto the. So this is just what it looks like today, just sort of general cartoonization of what the street looks like. And this is the way that we would divide everything up so that it would continue functioning. So it's actually beyond just a bike lane project. It's what we call a road diet. It would shrink the travel lanes from 4 at rush hour to 3 at off-peak periods to 2 full-time. We'd also add a full-time parking lane. Right now, I'm going to go to the prior condition. The right-hand lane is parking during the day, and then during the rush hours, it becomes a drive lane. And so we see actually pretty fast vehicle speeds. The speed limit is 30 miles per hour. I think everyone agrees that it's much faster than that on an average day. You can see where the bike lanes would be against the curb, taking up about 10 feet. We did traffic analysis in 2018 and 2019. And the main takeaways are, if you retain all the lanes at the intersections, that you do not need 4 lanes throughout the trunk of this corridor. So we came up with a plan that I'll show you in a second that actually does that. And there really was very little change at rush hour, which is about the AM rush was the only one that had any significant change, and it's about 2 hours a day. We thought that was an acceptable trade-off for adding this element of bike and scooter safety. This is the bus platform that we're going to put in. So it's a high visibility treatment. So you use these modular pieces to construct it. So there's a level ADA boarding for bus passengers. And the bikes go up onto it and then down. So there's a bit of a conflict zone, but we make it really high visibility. And they've worked very well in other contexts, and we're eager to try this one here. I'm going to start, this is the southern end of the corridor where Penn Avenue and 6th Street come in. So we have a novel intersection crossing treatment from Penn Avenue. And if it's already, we put these plans on a page to get the most sort of real estate for the plan view on the page. But through the right hand of the drawing is actually north. You can see the north arrow kind of below. I'm going to hover with my cursor. Right here is the north arrow in case you want some context. But you're going essentially up the hill is this way, down the hill is this way. There's your 30-mile-per-hour speed limit signs. So right at the intersection of the same number of lanes that are there today. And right after we cross out of this intersection, we start tapering in this lane. And if you look at it from the southbound direction, we have one lane coming in, and you flare out to these 2 lanes at the intersection. So that's how we retain all the intersection capacity. The KIPP school is essentially right here, kind of where this north arrow is hovering. This is the bus platform right there. So that's where the bus boarding happens. We have a pretty generous bus zone right here. And there's a chance we might try to make this bus zone for about a half an hour, because the bus actually lay over for 30 minutes while they're waiting for school pickup. But then there's full-time parking almost from the intersection up to this point in front of KIPP school. This is the KIPP's entrance. There's more full-time parking up here. And then the only other conflict in the whole thing, this is Gaudette's Brentwood entrance. So we spoke to them, and they were okay with this plan. We come up here, and then to stay away from changing anything at the intersection itself, we bring the bicyclists onto the sidewalk at this point, and they use these crosswalks up here to get to the 9th Street Bridge. It's pretty low pedestrian volume. And when we look at the Brentwood to Mount Olivet connection, we can actually go across this triangle of land. It's actually all in DDOT's right of way, and put a little trail over here. So that'll be probably the next phase with Mount Olivet, but that's the way we would do this project at the moment. I think we might want to take a couple questions at this point, since we just went through this plan. So I'll be open to it, and then I'll turn it over to Kevin to talk about West Virginia Avenue.
Well, we probably won't be able to do West Virginia Avenue. Commissioner Moore, do we have any questions?
Commissioner Moore, I think you're muted.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. I don't see any hands raised, but I do see one chat question from Janae Queen, or a comment possibly. This is great. Will the Mount Olivet Trail connect to West Virginia? If not, are the plans for bike lanes there?
Yes, that's the intent, is to connect everything in this network. I think if we go back a few slides, and I'm just going to go through, sorry, I'm going into the wrong proposal here. Made my screen blank. Hang on a second.
Okay, and I believe Andrew Grinberg is asking the same question there. Please let me know if that's not correct and you're asking something else about West Virginia Avenue.
Yeah, so the intent, and I want to go back to this New York Avenue plan, is to have this connected network of bike facilities. And they're all a little different, but cohesively, they're an excellent way to move around this portion of the ward. And it's a really nice plan that we're able to follow. So you can see how Mount Olivet would connect. And there's the connection here to New York Avenue. So we're trying to reach all of these and make these all happen one piece at a time. So this one is pretty much ready to go with a couple final edits to the plans. And then West Virginia, just to give you the very short CliffsNotes version, if we don't get to the full thing, this is in planning right now, and Kevin's prepared to talk about it, but it's going to be essentially a protected bike lane on each side of the street, going from at this point up to here, and then we'd come back probably in 2021 and do the portion down here, probably to L Street. So we could connect everything down that corridor. But I'll turn it over to Kevin. Commissioner Lee, I know we have some time constraints, but if...
I have a question also in regards to that. since you're looking at the Gallaudet interest, is it any working with Gallaudet as providing a flow through from Trinidad through Gallaudet University?
It's something we want to talk to them more about, and I think it's a bigger issue than just some of these specific facilities. It's more a campus planning and campus security issue. We really want to have that conversation because it's certainly, you know, the desire line from Trinidad through Gallaudet to Union Market or the future metro entrances is really strong. We want to make sure that can happen. I think they're going to have some concern over making sure that's safe and protects their interests and their student safety. So I can't really answer all those questions, but it's certainly something DDOT has.
But you have been asking them. If that conversation has come up with them.
Right, and it's again, it's probably beyond this small bike accessibility piece, but yes, that's of interest to the district generally to make that happen. And I think that they're open to it. So I don't want to speak for them, but I think there's some strong conversations going in that direction, and we'll keep at it.
Okay, I just wanted to make an announcement that the interpreters are going to be leaving at exactly 9 p.m. So for those of you who are using interpreting services, unfortunately, we're going to lose that service at 9 p.m. We will be typing notes in the live caption section once we lose that service. So please bear with us. You can, if you want to go ahead and continue the meeting. I do have just a comment following up to say that people did request hearing the West Virginia Avenue portion of the presentation.
I'll mute and I'll turn it over to Kevin to talk.
Okay, and then I just had one question still on this section about whether these would be quick build projects. How fast can they be installed? And that's from Josh Kramer.
We can install these. Yes, it's a quick build. It doesn't require any reconstruction of the actual road surface. And you know, my ballpark is within me giving my contractor notice to proceed. It'll be done within 4 weeks. Usually the actual construction period is maybe like 3 days. So it's actually relatively quick turnaround on these. So we'd like to make that happen very soon.
Okay, that's the only question I have right now.
Did you make that quick, Mr. Harrison? Go ahead.
Yeah. So the West Virginia Avenue Northeast Protected Bike Lane, it's going to be a phased project. Eventually, we would like to go from Florida Avenue all the way to New York Avenue. This is going to be the first part that we do. A significant amount of it has already been designed as part of the New York Avenue project that we were discussing earlier. So that kind of gives us a head start in being able to get all of that done. Sorry, got my notes here. And so just to remind you, this is the portion of that New York Avenue plan that we mentioned earlier. West Virginia Avenue. So here are some pictures of the street, which many of you are probably aware of. There's a lot of parking on the Mount Olivet Cemetery side of the street. There's actually less parking on the other side of the street because there are so many driveways connecting to these businesses. Here's another view of some of these businesses. There's also bus boarding zones in this top right photo. In the bottom right corner, the sort of parking demand shifts. This is south of Fenwick Street. And so in front of these residences, there's parking and it's pretty heavily used, but there's actually no parking on the other side of the street south of Fenwick. And in terms of congestion, it's not a heavily congested roadway with the exception of approaching Montana Circle. Here, there are 2 rows of traffic queuing for much of the day, and especially in the evening, getting out into the circle and onto New York Avenue. The existing cross section is it's a 43-foot wide roadway with 4-hour parking on both sides of the road north of Fenwick, with the exception of those bus zones and driveways that I mentioned earlier. South of Fenwick, there's no parking in front of the DPW facility there and between Mount Olivet and Fenwick. But there is parking in front of those residences that I mentioned. And so what we're proposing to do is protected bike lanes on each side of the street. North of Fenwick, parking would remain on the Mount Olivet Cemetery side of the street, which is actually where the majority of the parking is available. And then south of Fenwick, the parking would switch to the other side of the street and remain available in front of the residences there. So this is sort of a synopsis of some of the traffic operations and parking impacts. You know, so on the northwest side of the street, north of Fenwick here, is the area where parking would be repurposed for a protected bike lane. But the parking on the other side of the street, which is actually far more plentiful, would remain in place. And the majority of the parking that was repurposed for the bike lane would actually be up here north of 16th Street, where there's considerably less demand. Just as a reminder, that's this area on the right in this photo here, in the bottom left, in front of the service station and the bus zone. That's where the parking would be repurposed. I mentioned how the parking would transition from one side of the street to the other. This is an aerial view of Fenwick Street. I also wanted to point out that there are these bus zones here, these bus boarding areas. And something that we'll be working with, sort of a next step, is working with the different organizational stakeholders, figuring out a solution for this. Probably something similar to what Will was showing you on Brentwood Avenue, where there would be a mixed bus boarding and protected bike lane area. Because there are only 2 bus lines that use this, and they come pretty infrequently. But that's something we're going to have to work with WMATA on to figure out those exact details. And this is just sort of a schematic view of what would happen. Is the parking would be on the north side of the street here, with a protected bike lane on the other side of the cars, with the 3-foot buffer, but so that, you know, to protect the bike lane from the door zone. And on this side of the street, there would actually be a narrower buffer, but there wouldn't be the risk of being doored. And that's just, you know, the limitations of the curb to curb space. And the final, this is a very complicated drawing. This is from the New York Avenue bike plan. This is entering Montana Circle up here on the top right, New York Avenue across the top. This is to sort of show how the protected bike lanes could continue while preserving 2 travel lanes. As I mentioned, there's a tremendous amount of queuing that happens here, especially in the evening. And those travel lanes would be preserved so that people could still get through that intersection in a reasonable amount of time. And so right now in the project schedule, we are doing the public outreach. These plans that I've presented are not set in stone, but they are the best alternatives that we've been able to come up with at DDOT after many site visits and many concept planning efforts that have been done in the past over the last actually like 10 or 15 years or so, if you include the DC bike plan from 2005. And so we're going to continue with this in the spring and summer, particularly reaching out to some of the businesses through that corridor. And we're hoping to begin design work summer, fall of 2020, and hopefully install it about this time next year. And here's some contact information. I posted these websites in the chat box. And so this whole presentation is available online on the DC Wiki, which is where it's a new thing that we're doing at DDOT. It's an effort to make our websites more standard and make it a little bit easier to get this information online and out to the public. Yeah, people should be able to find those links in the chat.
Okay.
And with that, that's all from us. I'm happy to answer some questions.
Okay, so we do have a few questions popping up in the chat here. Andrew Grimberg asks, is there any way to build the full length of the West Virginia Avenue protected bike lane all at once on this timeline rather than leaving the southern section for later?
I can jump into that one. It's there each segment, if we break it up in segments, is around a mile, which is it's a lot of project to take on at once. And my 2 cents is we'll probably have to change from that protected bike lane on each side of the street to more of like this cycle track on one side of the street for the southern section. So there's a little bit of a changeover that we have to do. Whenever we do these projects, the most complex part are busy intersections, and one of those is Mount Olivet in West Virginia. So it takes a little bit more work. So we can, we're able to accelerate the northern portion of West Virginia under this timeline. We have a lot of projects throughout the city that we're also doing simultaneously. So we're eager to get them all out, and trust me, if I could accelerate them, I would. But we're in a position that we can conceivably be doing all the necessary work on West Virginia, and I think, you know, I'll make a commitment. We can push as hard as we can to get the northern portion completed in this calendar year. Again, Kevin said, you know, probably construction next year about this time. That's sort of the normal pace, but there's a lot of things changing right now for lots of reasons with coronavirus. But one that's related to street work is it's much easier to do projects when traffic volumes are, you know, 70% lighter than what we historically have seen. And you know, just like we're able to to accelerate the Brentwood Parkway construction because KIP is closed at the moment. There's a chance that, you know, a couple more of these projects happening sooner can accelerate what we were able to deliver on West Virginia. So there's a lot of interest in doing it, both I know in the community and certainly at TDOT to complete this project. So I'll give you my word that we're gonna push it as fast as possible if that works for the ANC and others in the community.
So we now have a question from Josh Kramer. It's actually 2 questions. The first question, are you still thinking of completing the West Virginia lane in 2 phases?
And I think I just spoke to that. Yeah, that's our current plan, is to do it in 2 phases.
Okay.
And that's actually pretty common. I mean, just going back to, you know, a pretty well-known facility, the 15th Street cycle track was done in really like 4 phases. So we did, the first one was U Street to Massachusetts. A year and a half later, we changed it to 2A, and then we did Massachusetts all the way to Pennsylvania Avenue. And then years later, we did north of U Street to Euclid Street. And then right now I'm working on another one that's from Pennsylvania Avenue to East Basin Drive and the 14th Street Bridge. So it's not uncommon for some of these more complex ones, and especially the longer ones, to span several phases. So I think that's true here. I would love to do it faster if I could, but there's a little bit of a you know, capacity and juggling lots of different things here, but we are interested in getting the whole thing completed. So I want to leave you with that commitment.
And then this is a question really for the commission, and I wasn't in attendance for the previous meeting on this, but didn't this ANC vote to ask for the southern section first? And then Josh also comments, thank you for your work on Florida Avenue. It's great, exclamation point. It needs repaving, but it's way safer.
I think that was, you know, there was a resolution about a month and a half ago from the ANC related to West Virginia. I think the nature of it was to convert parking on the eastern side of the street to resident-only parking and use the western side as bike space. And I maybe Ryan can remind us if that was the request was to move that part up. I think just the quick answer what Kevin touched on is we have a lot of groundwork laid for the northern section right now, and that is closer to being ready than the southern part. The other complex intersection we have to deal with is Florida and West Virginia, the southern part. I think I have a strong idea of how to do it, and I actually made a drawing of that intersection sitting at my desk at DDOT. which I haven't been for a couple of weeks, but so we've been giving it a lot of thought. But again, I will commit to making these both happen as fast as we are able to do. Right now, the timeline is probably, if we push it, I think this northern section late 2020, and then pushing the other section, it might be sometime in 2021, maybe the same time as we're talking next year. So we are also eager to get these projects completed.
Okay, and then from Gordon Chafin, can you request DDOT consider an upgrade to safety of no signal crosswalk at Monticello intersection with Mount Olivet? It's a fast road and very close to the West Virginia Avenue intersection.
I will pass that one along to our signals division. It's a little out of my bailiwick directly, but it's a worthwhile effort. So I will commit to passing this one along. They do what's called a warrant analysis on any signal request, and it looks at a whole bunch of factors, and you have to meet one of 8 warrants. Essentially, is a signal warranted here based on one of these 8 criteria? And it's a pretty strict, but well-known and open review process. So I will pass this one along. And I see Kelly also is going to follow up on this one. So Mount Olivet and Monticello we're gonna look at as well. Thank you.
Okay, and then we do have Kelly Jeong, and excuse me if I'm not pronouncing your name properly, Olson, on the line, and she's going to follow up on that.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm in a dark room with my toddler, so sorry about not sharing the video. Anyway, so yeah, I can follow with this. So I don't have any update, but I think there are a lot of safety improvement project going on within 5D. I do not have any clear update at this moment, but we are working on it. I've been working with individual commissioners on all of those. So I'll definitely make sure to follow up and provide update by next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And Kelly?
Yes?
This is Commissioner Lee. Can you just email me that, because Commissioner Shropshire is unavailable right now on that Mount Olivet Road, because that's her ANC.
Sure, yeah, I will definitely CC you on every email, because I know that Jason is no longer available.
And
so
Jason's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioner Moore?
That's all.
All righty. Thank you for the presentation. There was no more questions, correct?
No more questions.
Last agenda item is because of the COVID, and we're doing, can we get the full screen back? Because of the situation with the COVID, you see the poll out there. I just had the thought that, we don't meet during July and August. And I thought that maybe instead of not meeting in July and August, we'll not meet in June and July, and hopefully we can have back into our meeting room by August if everything gets better. Now, I'm just, as things keep going on, we get more information every day. I don't know if we'll be able to even meet in August. So, commissioners.
We do have 2 other we have the 6th Street development. Just wanted to make sure we do go back up, and we have people waiting to present.
Yes.
Yeah, they're here waiting.
They are online.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead then.
And we'll just leave that poll up so folks in the audience can respond.
Go ahead. 6th Street development.
This is Robbie Saklarides. I'm with JBG Smith. Can you enable my screen share?
I sure can.
There you go.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. All right. You should have that capability now.
And thank you for your patience.
Sure. Okay. Everybody see the site aerial that's up now?
There we go. We got it.
All right. Okay, great. I'm Robbie Saklarides. I'm with JBG Smith. Here to introduce you all to reintroduce some of you to the 6th Street development project that JBG Smith is working on in partnership with Gallaudet University. It's these 4 parcels that straddle 6th Street on the eastern side of the Union Market District between Florida Avenue and Penn. This project went through the stage 1 PUD process back in 2016. And as part of that process, the massing and density and community benefits and amenities package was all settled. It includes 10% affordable housing, as well as a large portion of that cycle track that DDOT just showed us. This portion here will be included as part of our project. That's case 1524 for those of you who want to go back and review. It's been a little while, what was all agreed to as part of that package. We are now coming back with our stage 2 PUD application process, which focuses primarily on the design of the buildings. And this package is only going to focus on 2 parcels, which are 4 buildings, which are these 3 buildings here on parcel 2, and this building here on parcel 3. So again, this is 6th Street here. And we'll be talking tonight, and our upcoming application is about those 2 parcels. So with that, we have some of our design architects and landscape architects on the line to walk you through our design, and we'll be brief. I'll turn it over to Olson Kundig.
Hi, can you see me and hear me? I'm Kirsten Murray from Olson Kundig. Okay, so I'll be talking about parcel 2, and parcel 2 is adjacent to 6th Street and Gallaudet University on the other side. It really becomes the connection between those 2 areas, and it's such, it takes its influences from, I think, both districts, both the Union Market District, the nature of these, industrial, very hardworking buildings, and the sort of, I think, charm and presence of buildings that, express what they're made of: concrete, glass, steel. And then Gallaudet University, which has quite a variety of architectural types and styles, but has many buildings from the late 1800s. It has a predominance of brick, of warm tones from the use of brick, also some charcoal tones, the use of the slate roofs, a lot of decorative, interesting patterns and materiality from designs of that era. And even the contemporary buildings hold some of those characteristics. So we are very much looking to the color palette, and I think some of just the qualities and geometric nature of what we see on the campus as we create forms for this project. Let's see. So what you see, the buildings, the 3 buildings that you see highlighted in the front part. So these are, we visualize this as a very vibrant, pedestrian-oriented, mixed-use building. It has residential above, and the ground level has retail facing 6th Street, active pedestrian retail, and you'll see the cycle track. And then on the campus side, it has it is adjacent to the future Creativity Way, which will be a feature of the universities that will be a place to showcase and highlight some of the art and creative activities. There are university functions on the lower level that will abut that area, just as the retail will 6th Avenue. And those spaces will be used for things like maker spaces, R&D, kind of those transitional, sort of more public-facing business and educational ventures of the campus. In between, we have 2 pedestrian areas there, which again extend some of the urban planning, campus planning goals of Gallaudet, which is to create green fingers and to really extend, to knit together these 2 districts with landscape and green features, which you'll hear more about later. All of this project is being designed to the Gallaudet University's deaf space design standards, which are very numerous, but I think at the neighborhood level, some of the things that are most apparent are the sort of rhythmic elements that you might see in a building, a certain geometry and a certain cadence to the forms, which is rhythm is an important visual part. A lot of emphasis on daylight and transparency, visual accessibility being so important to speaking with American Sign Language, safety and just transparency and access, creating soft corners that are, when you walk around a corner, you have some transparency through the corner of the buildings again, so you can visually assess what's going on around you. and even bay windows, which we don't have perhaps a literal traditional bay window as shown in this diagram, but large vertical windows where you can really come to the edge of the building if you're living inside and look out and just again have a lot of daylight and visual connection. Next. Again, some more of the reference buildings and language from the campus that we're drawing some inspiration from, and predominantly the warm brick character and contrasting with the sort of charcoal slate language. If you go to our next, we'll show you some perspectives of what this building looks like looking across 6th Avenue. You'll see there it really is three distinct buildings. The southern two work together. They're kind of knit together by a bridge element. Again, they really bring the warm material language through to the street. You'll see, again, at the upper levels, residential windows, both living room and bedroom windows. So a lot of transparency, some of the just subtle materials and geometries, making a contemporary connection back to the language of the campus's buildings. The third building to the north, we're trying to create some variety along the facades. And this one perhaps draws a little more influence from the market district with that expressed, framework in an infill of panels, using, again, that more of the cooler tones to just create some differentiation across the facades. And again, working with some interesting geometric patterns that have kind of their origins and their inspirations back into some details of the campus buildings. One of the areas that this is the bridge connecting the two south buildings, and it's really what we're trying to do is connect these three buildings and giving them some just nice shared amenities, including fitness and movement, co-working, et cetera, that all of the residents can share. And we're really trying to make that sort of those community spaces very visible to the community. This bridge connects some of the different uses and the roof, the outdoor roof areas of the campus, of the tops of the residential buildings, podiums. And it also acts as sort of a threshold into that pedestrian zone. You'll be able to walk all around these buildings and they're public, but you'll have a sense of when you've actually passed into that university, and you'll be able to sort of just feel the priority of the use of American Sign Language and some of the activities and programs and functions that will be at the pedestrian level of the buildings at that point. So that's it.
Yeah, I think that takes us to parcel 3. Shifting focus across 6th Street to the taller building here. So this, for context, this is the actual Union Market that you go to today. Parcel 3 is currently the surface parking lot. And we will be providing public parking below grade as part of this project in conjunction with tax increment financing from the district. So Morris, I'll let you take it from here.
Yes, I unmuted and sharing my video, so I don't know if someone needs to do.
You're all good.
Can you see me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Kirsten. My name is Morris Ajmi. We worked together with JBG Smith on the original submittal for the phase 1. And we are working on parcel 3, which is bounded by 6th Street, 5th Street, and Neal Place, which separates it from Union Market. We're also introducing a street through the site, Tapscott, which will go between the two buildings. Like Kirsten, we are looking at bridging between the architecture of the university, the brick architecture of the university, and the industrial architecture of the market. And we've expressed that on the building in different ways. We can see the next image is a rendering looking at the 6th Street side of the building and the brick articulation of the facade, which is then woven with metal on Neal Place and Tapscott, and then all metal on 5th Street. There are some if you go to the next image, there are some other views on 5th Street. And I'd just like to mention that we have an arcade, which Robbie can articulate there, which acts as a covered area that connects the market to Tapscott. And we have another passageway through the building, which will connect those two retail spaces. The next shot shows the detail of how we articulated the facades. And the next one after that shows the view on Tapscott. David from Future Green will be talking about some of the landscaping, but we feel like this is going to be a really robust, active street there. And then finally, the last shot that we have is a view across Tapscott, showing the facade and also the paving and some of the landscaping that we're proposing.
Okay. And then last but not least, our landscape. I'll transfer over to Future Green here. As by way of intro, though, you can see the cycle track that fits into the DDOT's plans that they just presented on will be delivered as part of our project all the way up to Penn Street and along our frontage here. So David or
Great.
Zenobia, are you with? Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm here. This is David Sider with Future Green. I'm a licensed landscape architect and pleased to have worked with JBG Smith as well as Olson Kodig and Morris Adjemi Architects on previous projects, and was part of the original master plan for this area as well, and really excited to see this moving forward. I think a lot of the open space goals for the project were to encourage a greater kind of east-west flow from the campus edge and encourage the students and faculty members to further kind of explore the Union Market neighborhood. And so we wanted to really increase porosity along that edge, and then create a number of different open space types to encourage the community to come in and be part of that. There's not a lot of green spaces throughout this whole neighborhood of the Union Market area. And so we're doing as much as we can to kind of introduce greenery and lushness, both along the streetscape as well as in these kind of small pockets throughout. So our scope extends from 5th Street to 6th Street, you know, from Neal Place all the way down to Morse.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at an enlargement here of 5th Street, you see the covered kind of arcade on the lower right-hand side of the plan view that Morris was speaking of, which allows the retail to have a spill out space and provides a really nice public amenity there for people to gather underneath the shade of the building. We've got you know, really substantial planting beds along 5th Street as well that will accommodate really robust plantings and offer small kind of pockets between them to cross through to parking as well as for bike parking.
I just wanted to point out we only have a few minutes left, so just in the interest of time, I just wanted to give that 2-minute warning.
Absolutely, I'll try to wrap this up. Along 6th Street is really the heart of the project. We've got the cycle track running through, which have been mentioned previously by DDOT. As well as kind of pushing out all these small scale, the kind of brown boxes that you see are actually wood decked areas with built-in benches and seating that provides opportunity for people to use sign language in those kind of niches and other kind of collection opportunities for people to inhabit. We've also got a really substantial crossing. It's a raised tabletop crossing. So the pedestrian will be highlighted there instead of the vehicles that will allow for people to really kind of pass through that east-west connectivity between Tapscott Street and Neal Place. And then this is just an example of some of the smaller scale spaces that we're providing. We're calling this the green finger. There's kind of retail frontage along 6th Street, which is at the top of your drawing there. And then these kind of small scale niches or courtyards between the buildings that are meant to be very lush with a lot of plantings. And then again, these kind of small pockets for people to be able to communicate with one another. And then moving up to Tapscott, this is again a kind of increasing the connectivity between the campus and 6th Street. and then also introducing a campus walk. And that campus walk, if you continue going west, you would reach across into Union Market. So that'll provide a great connective link between the campus and Union Market.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to say thank you so much. Really appreciate the presentation, and just wanted to let folks in the audience know that we'll have this available online as well for folks to continue to see. We did have one comment from Will Hansfield saying that he thought it was a great job on the addition at Tapscott.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.
And so we have OPC now.
Commissioner Moore,
Mark, are you
we're
still with
losing
us?
participants also.
Yes.
This will be also available on YouTube permanently. So
yeah,
as long as we keep this going. Mark, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Thank you so much
Yes,
for your
we can.
patience. We do appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys for giving me a few minutes tonight. I really appreciate that on behalf of Commissioner Moore and the entire ANC 5D. My name is Mark Williams. I work for the Office of the People's Counsel, Water Services Division. And also, I believe is on the line is Ms. Linda Jefferson and Ms. Jean Bethel. They would be speaking on the energy side of things. So I don't want to take up too much time, guys. I just want to let you guys know that the Water Services Division is still actively taking and responding to water calls regarding the DC water. We are emphasizing to our customers, particularly those who are still hopefully not experiencing any service disconnections, but if they are, we implore them to give us a call, to give DC Water a call so we can get those services reconnected as soon as possible. As far as any customers who are experiencing high water bills or any other sort of inconvenience, please give us a call. DC Water is still willing to negotiate and work out some sort of payment arrangements with customers who have high water bills. So they would put you on a sort of installment payment plan that would reflect, whatever your account balance is to help you again reduce that balance. The important thing going forward is at some point the pandemic is going to be over, and at some point when that happens, the utilities will be back to business as usual. Okay, which means that potentially disconnecting of services. So we want to emphasize to our customers that continue to manage your bills, manage your water bill, manage your services, use conservative water conservation water techniques, wash clothes, wash a full load if you got to do laundry, if you're going to wash dishes, make sure try to as best you can to wash when you have like a full load of dishes or, things of that nature. Because again, while they're not disconnecting services, they still are charging. And so it's important to continue to stay in management mode of both your water services as well as your bill. Okay. So again, we would just want to emphasize that. Certainly, again, I just want to reiterate the customers. Hopefully there aren't any customers that are experiencing any service disconnections, but if they are, please contact us immediately so we can assist you with getting those services reconnected. And again, please practice water conservation techniques. And as I said, if you want to give us a call because you have a high water bill and you want to see if there's some sort of arrangement that you can make regarding reducing that bill, please give us a call. We can assist you with that. Okay.
Question?
I don't see any hands raised, and I'm not seeing anything in the chat.
I have a question, Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir.
In regards to the high water bills, are you guys coming out doing audits? Because I just heard one that just unaware why their bill was so high. As far as checking for leaks, everything seems to be working properly in their home. So are you sending people out to do audits or to do inspections of their homes to see if there is some leakage that they cannot find?
Well, that's a good question. First and foremost, we here at the Office of People's Counsel, we ourselves don't conduct the audits, but DC Water absolutely, they do conduct the audits, okay? But at this time, they are not practicing going through the process of conducting audits that require them to actually enter homes. Okay. So for example, if you want to have your water meter checked and your water meter is outside the home, DC Water will still may come by to check your meter to see if it's faulty or make sure it's not leaking or anything of that nature. But right now, they're not going through the process of going into the home. So hopefully, if there are customers who are experiencing infrastructure issues, I would implore them, if they're in a position to do that, to contact a certified plumber to come through and see if they can make a determination as to what the situation is. And again, we want to reiterate the process that DC Water will recalculate your bill if you have a water leak in your property that's through a pipe. If the pipe is inside the walls underneath your home and it's leaking and you get that repaired, you send the plumber's report to DC Water. They will recalculate your bill, make a necessary adjustment so that your water bill reflect your water usage and that's related to the leak. But again, to answer your question, we here at the OPC, we don't do them at all. But DC Water does do them. But at this point in time, because of the pandemic, they're not.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem, sir.
Hello, Commissioner.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Oh, wonderful. Hi, I'm Jean Bethel, and I work with Mark. And I just wanted to also share with you all that at the start of the public health emergency, OPC reached out to all the utilities and legislators to recommend that they impose a moratorium on disconnection and late fees. The utility providers and legislators implemented relief measures that resulted in positive actions for the health and safety of the District of Columbia residents. Mark has shared with you what the water department has done, but I'd like to share with you what Pepco has done, Washington Gas, and Verizon. So Pepco has agreed to waive all customers' late fees and disconnections of service during this public health emergency. The company is going to work with any individuals whose services are disconnected to ensure that they are reconnected. Pepco is willing to work with all customers who are having difficulty paying their bills, but I want to encourage everyone to also please contact the Office of the People's Counsel because we can be of assistance. Washington Gas is suspending disconnection and waiving late fees on all customers' bills. And according to Washington Gas, these actions are automatically in place, so consumers do not need to call to request that. They are offering payment arrangements, and if anyone would like to speak with Washington Gas, they are asked to email washingtongas.com to request payment arrangements. And again, they can always contact the Office of the People's Counsel because we are the utility consumer advocate and we will work in their behalf. With respect to Verizon, that company has also agreed to waive late fees and will not terminate services. Consumers should call Verizon. But I want you to know that on April the 7th, the DC Council passed the Supplemental Emergency Amendment Act of 2020 that prohibited Verizon from disconnecting the services of local phones for non-payment during this public health emergency. But that act also barred the shutoff by all cable and internet service providers. Okay, just so that you would know. And last but not least, I would be remiss if I did not share with you that their utility scams are very active during this period. The scammers may come via phone, approach individuals via phone, email, regular mail, and even in person. And the scammers may threaten disconnection if there is no payment. Some scammers call even showing ID from a utility company, the telephone numbers from a utility company. I just want to caution everyone to be aware that utility companies will not disconnect your services without giving you a disconnection notice in advance. And that before making any decisions about utility service, persons should check with their energy supplier and look at their most recent bill to check their current account balances, and only call the utility contact number on the bill or on the company's website. Okay? And please do not share your account information or social security number with anyone. If a person calls you and are soliciting your information, they should have it. Please do not give that information out.
Okay.
Only when you're the initiator.
All right. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that update. And it sounds like there are some materials that we can share with people so that they can read and follow up if they have any questions as well. So thank you. And I think we have one last item on the agenda, which is 1121 Morse Street. And there, Brandon Jackson is on the line. Thank you to the Office of the People's Counsel again.
Can you unmute? Okay, there we go. You're still muted, Mr. Jackson. There you
Hello?
go.
You good now?
Yes.
Okay. How are you doing? Thank you for having me today. Here myself and my architect, Gregory Curley, excuse me. And I wanted to just present our project that we were working on and in the hopes that this ANC would support us with the BZA. The relief we're looking for is relief from the 10-foot rule for the rear addition in the back of the building. We were planning on doing a 3-unit building, top unit, three bedroom, 3 bath, to kind of keep it in line with some of the like single family houses that are already on the street. And then 2 additional units would be 2 bedroom, 2 bath. Excuse me. And then, so far I've spoken with the residents at 1119, 1117. Those are the 2 homes to the right. I guess that would be to the west of our property. I don't know if you guys know exactly where it is. It's right in the middle of Moore Street where those 2 buildings are. We're the one right adjacent to the large building, to its right side. And I was going to let Gregory take over and tell you kind of what we were doing architecturally and how we're meeting the zoning standards.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Do you have the presentation? It was sent to everyone. I know there's been some confusion because the specific area we're in, there's not a commissioner, I guess. But I just want to know if everyone has received the information. We met with the development committee. Was that 2 weeks ago, Brandon?
Yep.
And went through the presentation with them, and we wanted to share it with the full ANC. So I guess I can share my screen and show it to you if you don't have it.
Yes.
Yes. Please share.
Okay. Let me do share screen here. Let me know if you can see this.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, you can see it. Okay, great. So this shows the location. Here's the location. Gallaudet is right over here. If you can see my cursor moving around.
Yes.
And so we're on the south side of the street at 1121 Moore Street. We have a property that is 2795 square feet. So we're over the threshold for special exception for 3 units. The guidelines for BZA is 900 square feet per unit. And so we meet that threshold. So I'll go through what we're doing and show you the units and some elevations. And I also have a sun study that shows the impact, which is negligible, if any, on blocking sun to the neighboring structures. So here is our property at 1121. These are the two developments that Brandon was mentioning at the middle of the block, and these were done prior to the new zoning regulations taking effect in 2016. Here is the facade. There's a perspective down the street of the property. Here's the rear. So here are those two developments. I don't know if you're familiar with those. If you've been on the ANC in the recent years, they've probably been brought up many times in terms of showing what some precedent. So here's the back of our property right here. This is the site plan where you have the parking in the back. There's some garden and patio areas. And then this is the proposed addition. So here's the floor plan. So you come down straight to the cellar unit. And so you have a 1-bedroom plus den, basically really a 2-bedroom unit here. And then you go up here from the street up to the first floor, and you have a very similar type unit, 2 bedrooms or 1 bedroom and a den, however you want to define that. So these are and then you move up to the large unit, which would be great for families. You have 1 bedroom on the second floor. This unit is on the second and third floor. You have 1 bedroom on the second floor, plus 2 bedrooms and a den on the third floor. So this would be appropriate for a family, a couple with kids, someone who has aging parents that need to live together. So it gives a lot of flexibility for this unit. There is a roof deck which has views out to the south. And then there's the elevations. The north elevation is the front elevation, which is you see here. And we're actually setting back, I'm going to go back a little bit. We're setting back 7 feet from the front of the property, that third floor addition. So we're setting it back a significant amount. And so that is the proposed development. Again, Brandon, you had gone through this process at one point on this property, which we had a 32 feet addition. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I wasn't part of that design process, but we had
the major difference between that one and this one is before it was kind of a box shape, where it was all 32 feet in the rear. So now we were doing the 2 lower levels that would kind of be below where the fence line is now, between 1121 and 1119. Those would be in 32 because it has a fence covering them. And then the ones up above would only be 16-foot extension. So any type of, blocking of light by our building next door on 1119 or 1117 became pretty nominal. And I spoke with the owners, the Hales at 1119 and Ritesh at 1117, and they were all in favor of it.
And so that was really the big move we made from the previous submittal, which was that 2019?
I believe so, yes. It was beginning 2019 or into 2018.
So, which the whole addition was at 32 feet. So we stepped back significantly. We cut the addition in half on the upper 2, which are really the 2 floors that would have any adverse effect on the neighboring properties, and we brought that down to 16 feet. So the relief that we would get from BZA are basically two things. One is the special exception for the three units, and then the second is the rear yard addition, which would exceed the 10 feet from your adjoining properties. Now we have one adjoining property that the addition is 50 feet. So we're significantly less than that one. And those are those 2 large developments directly east of our property. So, and we know that 1117 is going to have a carriage house and a 6'9" addition in the back. So we think we're being sympathetic to the neighboring properties and also following the guidelines of BZA for the 3 units.
Okay. All right. Well, I thank you for that. Commissioner Lee, did you have any questions for them?
Oh, no, he did mention he spoke to the Hells. I will speak to the Hells also. Do you have a letter of support from them?
No, I can get one for you. They had written one before for it. So we have been speaking on the phone about, I've just been updating them with the changes, but I can get that for you.
Okay, because that's been, that block, it's been a lot of contention, especially with the builders that came in before the statute was changed.
Yeah.
The regs were changed. Commissioner
You see
Linhan.
right now, I just want to point out on the screen is the sun studies. And if you want me to explain them, I'd be glad to. But if you don't need to, I won't take up your time.
No, we can review those.
Okay.
When is your hearing?
We don't have a date set yet. We have the receipt from BZA, but that went in, I guess, back in February, I believe, in February, but we haven't received a date yet.
And
yeah,
I haven't.
They haven't been as really figured out this hearing system quite as well as some of the ANCs have. So I think things have been sort of pushed back, and they're trying to get the agenda set for the hearings based on our current state of affairs.
Okay, using the same system. All right. Oh, did you get is Mr. Horgan, is he still on from the
He's not, but he did just send me a text message to just confirm that there's not a date scheduled as yet. So that gives us an opportunity to follow up and review with you guys if we have any additional questions.
Yes.
Sure. And I don't know if the development committee has given a recommendation or if they will give a recommendation for you.
We'll follow up with them.
Yeah, because we had a good dialogue with Kevin and their team.
Did any neighbors come to the meeting?
No.
It was advertised and it was available, but it was only our team and Kevin and his team. I don't think we had any outside participants. Brandon, I don't know if you recall, but I don't recall any outside participants, any public.
Okay. So I think just for me, I would definitely look for the letter from the 2 adjacent neighbors that you've been speaking to.
Okay, yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, that just been a little weird with the Corona stuff. I didn't want to go knocking at their door.
Well, yeah.
Well, no, we understand. We understand.
Yeah, so we've just been talking on the phone. Yeah.
Oh no, that's acceptable now. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Just if I'll speak to. I know Mr. Hells. I will speak to them, and I don't know the other neighbor, but I do know the Hells, so I will give them a call.
All right.
Okay. All right. So thank you guys so much for presenting, and then we'll get back with you ahead of the vote.
All right. Thank you.
Will the vote be at the next hearing, or how does that process work?
It just depends. So since you don't have a hearing date at the moment, I don't think that there's necessarily a rush on getting an opinion back from us, but it depends on when we get your materials and the time it takes to review ahead of the next meeting. So the sooner you can get us, confirmations from the neighbors and we get a final recommendation from the zoning committee, the better.
Okay. And if you need any additional information, you can send it to us direct or talk to Kevin and he'll get in touch with us direct as well.
Definitely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Commissioners.
I am going to forego my commissioner report. It is.
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying,
far
Chris,
too late.
we're down to 23 participants, and giving 17. As
and we no longer have a quorum.
Right, we no longer have a quorum. And given, I saw the poll, there wasn't a lot of people participating in the poll. I'm not as optimistic as I was when I suggested this last week when we spoke, Commissioner Moore. I don't think we'll be able to meet in August in person.
Yeah.
I really don't think that's going to happen by all. You know, I was, you know, when I was thinking we would. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to meet in August. So we might as well leave it with the June on Zoom. Hopefully, we'll be able to meet in September. I'm not even as optimistic about September now. So, but you know, we as we find as this thing goes forward, we keep finding out. But you know, they keep moving that peak.
Yes.
So I just think that we'll just continue with this. We got to work on our timing.
Yes.
Outside of that, I think it went well.
Yes.
And
we're gonna try to make these shorter.
And ordering the equipment for Commissioner Motley.
Yes.
Yeah. And so
and that was something that we included in the budget.
Yes.
So that we can make that expenditure if we need to.
I'm going to join the meeting though, because I still want to talk. So I would like to join this meeting. I thank everyone for participating. At one count, I saw 60. Commissioner Moore, right?
Yes.
And I saw 60.
Yeah.
So that's more than I think we had in person.
There were many requests to have this continue on, so maybe this is.
I know, I saw that too. Yeah, because I think they misinterpreted what I was saying. I wasn't saying Council June. I was saying Council June and have one in August. But no, but I think we're going to be doing this. I'm not going to say for the rest of the year, but I definitely know we will be meeting in June. And
well, even when we get back to the office, I think we could continue to live stream the meetings.
Oh, that's right. We might be able to go back to the office and live stream. That was another question that came up that people wanted to know, will we continue to do this live stream? So yes, we will continue to live stream the meeting so everybody can participate, whether it's in-house or in their homes. So I thank everybody for coming out as we dwindle from 60 to 19. I just hope that everybody be safe. I know now, unfortunately, a lot of our circles are touched by this COVID virus, whether it's a coworker, a friend of a friend. So just ask that everybody keep everybody lifted up in prayer and wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Thank you for coming. Commissioner Moore, can you sign us off?
Yes, I sure can. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good night.
Yep. Okay, it's just